everyone, and welcome to another Tinfoil Spotlight. How are all you doing? Hope you're having a good weekend so far. Happy Saturday. Or happy Sunday, rather. Sorry. We are doing the Patreon and YouTube member-only stream after this, so if you want to be a part of that, make sure you join the Patreon or become a YouTube member. Today we are taking a look at the story of the Qanon mom, who allegedly, suffering from Munchausen by proxy, poisoned her child to induce seizures, and to the point where doctors noticed, reported her to CPS, her child was taken away, and thus she embarked on a years-long journey to get them back from what she considered the deep state, culminating in her and an accomplice working together to plot an armed kidnapping attempt against the foster family who was watching her child. That's a lot, but should be good. Did I enjoy Altered States? I didn't watch it yet. I'm actually going to watch it tonight, was my plan. I was planning on watching it tonight after Baja went to bed. I know she's not a fan of Altered States. She's seen it and it scared her as a kid. She saw it when she was a kid, and I guess it scared her. So I don't know if she'd want to watch it, but I'll probably watch it after she goes to bed, because she works early tomorrow. She'll probably go to bed earlier than I do. So, yeah, ask me tomorrow. I don't have electrolysis tomorrow. I know I often take Mondays off for electrolysis, but my electrologist is on... What is she doing? She goes on vacation all the time. She gets to go on vacation a lot. I'm very happy for her. So I'll be doing this tomorrow, because I don't have to work either till Wednesday. That's not true? I thought you said it scared you, or did you just not like it? Because I know Tremors scared you as a kid. Or were you saying that's not true to Mr. Blast saying terrible parents? Clarify on the Altered States thing, Baja, if I'm incorrect. But I know you don't like Tremors because it scares you, which is fair. Tremors are scary. The Graboids are scary, rather. Oh, you saw it as an adult? You just thought it was a bad movie? Okay, I must have, like, Mandela affected in my head and conflated it with, your feelings on Tremors. Mr. Blast traumatized Baja, but he traumatized her in the exact correct way. Yeah, Tremors terrified you. Oh no, I'm gonna spook ya, hold on. Ooh, it's the Tremors 7 movie collection. Ooh, it's Tremors, but times 7. Ooh. I have the first two on 4K. Dr. Worm, thanks for 45 months. There were 7. There are 7 so far. They did a lot of direct-to-DVD Tremors movies. Kevin Bacon was in none of them. Can't top the original? Oh boy, what's this? Oh, they're doing another adaptation of Reanimator? Yeah, that's not going to be as good. No. Reanimator is actually probably one of my favorite, like, horror, dark comedy movies. I really like a lot of those movies that, sorry, I'm forgetting his name. One sec. Oh, it would be... Whoever did From Beyond. The same person did From Beyond, I think, and Reanimator. And they also did another movie that I like. They all have the guy who plays Herbert West in them. That's an incorrect opinion, Baja. That's a very incorrect opinion. Reanimator is a great movie. Your taste in horror just isn't as good as mine. Oh, Jeffrey Combs, thank you. Star Trek alum. Star Trek MVP, Jeffrey Combs. Altered Undying with a $3 tip says, hope you get the gaming stuff I sent you. Ooh, yes, I did. I still have to log in, and, I tried to log in initially, because I do have an account with that site, but I'm having trouble logging in, so I gotta change my password, I think. A YouTuber, Dr. Jordan Breeding, just did an almost 3-hour review of all 7 Tremors movies. That sounds good. I like really, really long videos that I can watch for 3 days straight. You know, you like pause it when you're doing other things, and then when you're alone again, you play the video. You know how videos work. You watch them, I imagine. Hello, fellow human beings. I also enjoy entertainment. You're telling us you're a Quentin fan? I've enjoyed some of Quentin's videos. I haven't watched the, like, 48-hour Beverly Hillbillies thing his dad did. I told you I was a reptoid. I didn't say I was an alien. We were here first. If they go back to the original story and do something new, I wouldn't mind an attempt at a new version of Reanimator. I mean, anyone could attempt anything. I just don't think it's going to be good, probably. Alright. So, anyway, let's get into it. I'll read the article from AP first, because it'll give us a decent overview of the story, and then we'll get into some interviews she did while she was trying to get her son back. Content trigger warning. She is going to make allegations of abuse against the child. Well, first of all, there's multiple layers here. Firstly, the Munchausen's by proxy issue. So there might be discussions where I bring up how she was allegedly poisoning her kid in order to induce seizures and other disorders to get attention or to get sympathy, because that's what Munchausen's by proxy is. The second layer is she is going to make accusations of a sexual abuse nature towards the foster family that is keeping her kid because, you know, taken away from her. Now, I want to be clear, there is no evidence that the child that was taken is being harmed or abused in any way. I don't mean to say that the foster care system is perfect. It's not. I know people have stories of going through that system and having things terrible happen to them, but there is no evidence of that in this case, okay? In fact, after he was taken to the foster care family, all of his issues stopped, and in the years since he's been taken, he's had no more health issues. Okay? So, just wanted to warn in terms of that. Alright, I think we can get into it. Holy Input, thanks for gifting 5 Tier 1 subs. Appreciate it. Let's see what this says. Oh, I should probably turn the music off, huh? There we go. A Colorado mother accused of plotting to kidnap her son from foster care after her teen daughter said she started associating with supporters of the Qanon conspiracy theory was found guilty of conspiracy to commit second-degree kidnapping on Friday. Kind of ironic, too, by the way, because QAnon people often bring up the statistic of, like, 800,000 kids being, like, go missing per year. And I always bring up the counterpoint to that is they're kind of using the statistic in a misleading way. They're implying that almost 1 million children a year just disappear off the face of the earth and no one knows what's happening to them. That's not true. The statistic is mostly involves non-custodial parents kidnapping their children from the custodial parent or the state or a foster family or whoever. So she actually is part of that statistic, ironically enough. Kind of funny. Anyway. Cynthia Abcug, 53, denied she was involved in planning a raid on the foster home where her then 7-year-old son lived in the fall of 2019. She had lost custody of him earlier that year after being accused of medical child abuse, lying about him having seizures and other health problems in order to trick doctors into providing unnecessary care. Jurors also found Abcug guilty of misdemeanor count of child abuse. She's scheduled to be sentenced in October. Her son, now 10, is still in foster care and has not had serious health problems since being removed from Abcug, according to prosecutors. Absug's lawyers suggested that a drug prescribed to treat the seizures was responsible for at least some of the boy's health problems. Doctors had begun weaning him from the medication before he was removed from Absug's custody. Absug moved her family to Colorado in the fall of 2017 at the suggestion of a doctor in Florida in hopes that neurologists at Children's Hospital Colorado could find out what the cause of his health problems were. Absug testified that her son was removed in May 2019. She was extremely anxious and reached out on social media for help getting her son back. She told jurors she ended up meeting members of a group that said it was working on reforming the family court system and offered to help her get her son back legally. I gotta get into this group, by the way, at some point. The actual group that she got hooked up with is their own other can of worms, is a whole other can of worms, rather. They are QAnon people and also kind of sovereign citizens, and for a time, they were an organization that claimed they could help get your kids back from the foster care system. They couldn't. They had no legal training. They were not, like, lawyers. This was just a group of, like, sovereign citizen QAnon people trying to do the sovereign citizen thing. So we probably need to get into them at some point. They're also involved in another QAnon mom thing, at least one, which is a separate person. She's also like a QAnon mom that got involved in stuff and wanted to get her kids back, and it was a whole nightmare. But yeah, we'll have to get into that group at some point. She said it turned out to be a scam with members interested in stealing money raised online to help parents who had lost custody of their children. She did not describe the group as being involved with QAnon, but said she heard reference to the conspiracy theory by people she met through her activism online. Many QAnon supporters believe former President Donald Trump was fighting enemies in the so-called deep state to expose a group of satanic, cannibalistic child molesters they believe secretly runs the globe. Around this time, Absug posted on social media that social workers took children to sell them and sent them to other countries for adoption. So much tinfoil lately? Yeah, I've been in a tinfoily mood. Conspiracy theory was not a main issue in the trial, which focused more on detailed testimony from medical providers and educators about Absug's medical history. Absug said she heard references to QAnon in passing and talking to people she met online. Rubber bracelets with a phrase used by QAnon supporters, "The storm is upon us," as well as a website known for posts about QAnon printed on them were found in Absug's home, according to police. Now, to be clear, she is in trial claiming that she, like, barely, there were other people involved with, like, QAnon stuff, but, like, I don't know about any of this shit. That's, untrue, in my opinion, based on what we see of some of her interviews we're gonna watch today. These are interviews that she did, in between the time of her child being taken out of her custody and when she was arrested for the, kidnapping plot. I don't have to say alleged, she was convicted. Kidnapping plot. She speaks just like anyone who believes in the QAnon stuff, mixed with a little bit of sovereign citizen. So I don't know if she actually ever uses the phrase QAnon, but whether or not she directly knew the name, she is, at minimum, indirectly believing and espousing the mythos, coming from the QAnon community. Can you get a link to this story? Yeah, here you go. 1 sec to copy paste that. There you go. Absug's daughter, who was 16 at the time, also good for this daughter who was 16 for reporting her to the police. Like, this was an actual situation where snitching is, like, cool, because, like, people are in danger of losing their lives and they're innocent and there's a child involved. Good on that kid, because that's hard to do, I imagine. Your own parent? Good for her. Told authorities she was concerned because her mother had been talking... I don't even like using the phrase snitching there. Usually when we're referring to snitching, we're more like, oh, that person, like, has weed on them, or they needed food, and you maybe saw them at the grocery store take the food, you know? This isn't snitching, this is reporting. Greyline says, I'm sorry, the idea of the US is sending adoptable kids overseas when we've been raiding other countries for adoptable kids for decades is laughable. But what if they do the thing to us that we did to them? Sort of a War of the Worlds type anxiety. Anyway. Absug's daughter, who was 16 at the time, told authorities she was concerned because her mother had been talking about a raid on the foster home for several months, and she believed people were going to be hurt because those involved believed her brother was wrongfully taken from his home, according to Absug's arrest affidavit. Her daughter also told them her mother had allowed a military veteran she believed to be armed to sleep on their couch to provide security. Absug said the group she was working with arranged to send the man to protect her after the lock of her backsliding door was found broken. He'd been identified by police but had not been charged. In response to a question from the jury, she acknowledged she had never met him before she allowed him to stay with her. Jay's a Proxy. Thanks for a 195 stream streak. 805 to go indeed. Absug said she bought a gun around this time because she feared for her safety, but never made it to an appointment for a training class and has never fired it. Police found the appointment listed on the house's whiteboard calendar when Absug's daughter was also removed from the home after reporting her concerns. After her daughter was removed, Absug said the man providing security coordinated with others to take her to a, quote, safe house, and implied that she was held against her will. Absug said her phone was taken from her and she was held for 3 months in a hotel. Absug was arrested in Montana on December 30th, 2019. Of course, we know she was then convicted of second-degree kidnapping. So, let's take a look at some of the interviews she did before she was arrested, shall we?
Hi, this is James White from Northwest Liberty News. Thanks so much for joining me today. It's the...
Oh, I didn't even bring up, people in the Qanon community like her, and people in the sovereign citizen movement kind of liked her. Basically, people in the anti-CPS movement, which has crossovers with other weird online sub-communities. So she became a poster child for, like, these people who hate CPS and think that every time a child is removed from a home, it's a kidnapping and, like, a travesty and disgusting. And none of them believe that she has Munchausen by proxy. Now, I don't know if I need to say allegedly here, because it's not like it's a crime, right? We don't know her medical records, but we do know that the doctors at the trial testified to the fact that they believed that she has Munchausen by proxy, and also that the child, as soon as the child left her care, recovered and has been doing great since. So, I don't know in terms of legality where I need to sit here, but I'll say allegedly Munchausen by proxy just in case. Oh yeah, YouTube, if you could like the stream, I'd appreciate it.
9th day of June, 2000.
What's her name? Cynthia Absug. Cynthia Abcug. That's not doxing. That's all public record. This is a news story. She was convicted of a crime, and I am reporting on it.
2019. And as you can see here from the video, I have a guest that's with me here on the broadcast. This is an off-hour broadcast from my normal live broadcast during the weekday. This was something that had to be done quickly, so I decided to do this interview immediately. I have on the line with me Cynthia Absug, who is another parent victimized by CPS, and sadly, as you know, if you've been following this channel, this is something I've been following quite a bit over the last few months, and more and more lately, because it seems like the criminality, I don't know how else to put it, the criminality seems to be accelerated here. So without further delay, I want to welcome Cynthia on the broadcast here, and I'm going to have her go over her particular case from the very beginning.
Nice to see you live, Fippages. Fippages.
Cynthia, it's nice. It's nice meeting you.
Fipa Jay-Z, maybe?
And I appreciate you being on the broadcast. Sorry it's under these circumstances, but Cynthia Absug, thanks again for being here today on Northwest Liberty News.
Hey, Jesse.
Thanks, Jim, for having me today. I appreciate it.
Oh, you're quite welcome. I received a tweet from, I think, a mutual friend of ours that said we needed to get this interview out pretty quickly because there may be some other things going on that may prohibit us from getting the word out here in the future. So we wanted to sort of spring into action and take care of it as quickly as we could. So in that vein, we're doing this interview here on the weekend. on the off hours because of its importance. So, Cynthia, if you can start from the beginning and go over your specific case and why you're here today on the
You have a link to that, Spokane Dog Man?
broadcast.
Because I love shitty gurus. People on the internet who, like, offer classes or, like, one secret tip, how you can do this. Love that crap. I mean, I hate it. It's a scam and these people are awful. But it's like an epidemic. We're in such a weird era of, like, scam gurus. They're just everywhere. Everyone's looking for answers. There's always someone there around the corner to sell you one.
I'd be happy to, Jim. Thanks again.
Freyline says if she's been making her child sick for attention, the attention she's getting from this is probably really feeding into her issues. Yeah, I don't know how Munchausen by proxy works, if it has to specifically be in regard to sickness. But, like, yeah, I would imagine this isn't helping. And I'm almost wondering, because I've said this, I'm not a psychiatrist, I'm not a psychologist. I don't know in her head. She's gotta know that she's the one who did this, right? Because she was literally going out of her way to seek out medical care the child didn't need, and potentially inducing sickness in the child. That's not something you can, like, accidentally do and unconsciously do and not know you're doing it. That is a process that you need to, like, pre-plan and go out of your way and, like, research what medications you could give the kid, you know, in order to give whatever, you know, symptom you're looking to emulate. So, like, she's gotta know in these interviews that she's wrong, right? But people's ability to have cognitive dissonance is, like, never ceases to amaze me. So it's possible somehow she has a strange, like, separation in her mind where she's like, yeah, sure, I, like, made him sick, but, like, he's really sick too. Like, I don't know if she somehow has deluded herself into thinking that. I don't know.
And
oh, I should also point out that there's a woman online, Megan Fox is her name, and she is, like, really into this, but totally believes Cynthia and doesn't think that she was doing Munchausen. So if you look up this lady and you happen to come across this YouTuber Megan Fox, she pretty much just uncritically believes every single thing Cynthia says and just calls every doctor, lawyer, everyone involved in the case, like, a fraud, calls stuff fake news. She's a Trump supporter, obviously.
I am a mother of 4, and I have
Was I aware Spirit Science Guy wanted to effectively have a compound? That doesn't surprise me. He gives me that vibe.
this case particularly involves my 7-year-old son, and he's disabled and he has a medically complex situation.
Again, no, he does not. According to everything we know now, the child is fine. The child does not have any disability or chronic illness. The only thing that was, quote, medically complicated was the fact that she was allegedly lying to doctors about the kid being sick when he wasn't, or allegedly, potentially inducing symptoms in the child in order to feign that the child was ill. So it's not medically complicated, it's just inconvenient to her story.
In October of 2018, last year,
Yes, no relation to the other Megan Fox.
his doctor, Dr. Collins at the Children's Hospital here in Colorado, decided that he had to go to school to attend first grade with one-on-one supervision. And the Douglas County school system here declined those services for him. And he had a disability attorney that met with the attorney for the school board. And they said that they were not able to come up with a safety plan for him to be able to attend school safely. They were not willing to provide those services.
Thanks, Spokane
At
Dogman.
that point,
Wouldn't they legally be required, if it's a public school in their district, to provide those? Isn't that some sort of provision of the Americans with Disabilities Act or anything in regard to, like, the Department of Education rules? Which, like, during this, Trump wasn't in charge, so you don't be like, oh, no one cares about the Department of Education. Give me a sec. Let me save this link. Thank you.
I was forced to pull him out of school to
Could be easy to prove, but she can't. Yeah.
homeschool him.
Yeah, I'm guessing she just wanted to homeschool him, but wants to make it look like big education wouldn't take care of my special boy's needs. Only mommy can do that. Only mommy can take care of her special boy. Take your meds, Billy, or whatever is. I don't know the kid's name, and I'm not going to look for it because the kid deserves privacy.
In order to remain with the doctor's orders, in compliance with his doctor's orders, his main neurologist at the...
If it was 2017, wouldn't that have been Trump's first term? He wasn't dismantling the FDA during his first term. At least not to the extent that we are currently.
Children's
Or
Hospital.
the Department of Education.
Within approximately 2 months, I had a caseworker from the Department of Human Services at my door wanting to interview both of my children. I have a 15-year-old daughter and I have my 7-year-old son. And
the daughter who went on to report her for the second-degree kidnapping scheme she was convicted of.
And sorry about that. Trying to get my camera straight here. She told me that she had received an anonymous call regarding possible misrepresentation of my son's medical issues. And so during that interview, I had no problem talking to her. I had no problem letting her talk to the children, with the exception of my daughter. My daughter has a therapist who did not want her to be interviewed. And my son being disabled, I found out later there were certain guidelines that were supposed to be followed with him because he had never been interviewed in a situation like this. So it was kind of...
I mean, he's a child, so yeah. I think often parents are, when they can, in interviews like that, but if it's a questioning about the parent, can't really do that. Also, she keeps saying the child is disabled. Once again, I don't think there's any evidence of that other than her claim. The doctors have said that's not true. The child's, like, not.
On the spot. And at that time...
Don't get me wrong, I wouldn't be surprised if the child had difficulties, because spent, like, the first 7 years of his life with this mom who was allegedly abusing him. So, like, he might have issues, but he doesn't have a disability in the way she is describing. He's not sick. He's not having seizures on his own, stuff like that.
She kept asking me, was my son's father deceased, which he is. And I thought that was very curious, but I just wasn't sure why she kept asking me that. And then she kept wanting the particulars and a death certificate and proof of that. And then she wanted to know the particulars about how much Social Security, when did he receive it? And I still wasn't aware that that was something, that would come into play later. So that she interviewed the children with that particular interview and then left. And then I had not heard anything from her. And then my daughter's therapist, Amanda Edwards, sent a letter.
Was she abusing both kids or just the one kid? From what I've seen from the case, the one kid, but I don't know. She's only... Let me put it this way. I have not seen much discussion about the other kid at all. So I don't want to speak on that. I don't know. All I can say is none of the news stories or the court stuff that I could see mentioned the other child. So I do not know. But there is no indication as of right now, from what I know, that the other child was being abused. Now, the other child was older, 15, 16. I don't know if that has any bearing on it because, the idea of a sick little kid is often more sympathetic to people than a teenager. Of course, you're still going to be, if you're not a sociopath or a psychopath, sympathetic to anyone who's ill. But, in particular, a sick, child is, hits everyone very hard. So, I don't know if that makes a difference. I'm not making any accusations. I'm just pontificating on the subject.
to the department.
Can you tell I don't want to get sued by an insane QAnon lady? She's not in she's not in prison anymore. So she did go to jail, but not long enough, in my opinion. You know how long she got for attempted alleged conspiracy to kidnap her kid, potentially at gunpoint? She got 90 days and a 3-year suspended sentence.
Department asking them not to interview my daughter again, that it could cause a negative impact on
Yeah, the foster family she was targeting was not pleased with the sentencing.
my daughter, and she sent that letter to the department, and I forwarded it to them as well. They never called her.
The other case is even crazier. Yeah, we're gonna save that for another day. There's another case with a different QAnon mom that ended in murder, but again, that's a different day.
She asked for a call.
I'm not laughing at the murder, by the way. I'm laughing at how absurd the world is and how people's, like, delusions can cause them to create and do just terrible acts.
And to be interviewed.
It is related to this case because the same, legal, I call them legal, the same pseudo-legal people that helped her out were involved in the other case.
And they never called her. And,
ivermectin was the boogeyman drug during COVID.
Oh, there's
couldn't
an
talk
ad.
about it, couldn't get it anywhere.
There are so many fucking ads on BitChute for these, like, sketchy-ass pharmacies to buy ivermectin. We still gotta do the ad stream.
Even though it was known to be an antiviral, antimicrobial, antiparasitic medicine. I first
Fuck off. I hate
that
these people and their goddamn bullshit.
point, they came in and interviewed
Go for it, guys. Chug your horse paste for the parasites you don't have.
my daughter and my son for a second time. Within a few days of that interview, my daughter was hospitalized in ICU with a suicide attempt. After that second interview and that suicide attempt on my daughter, which the interviews are a trigger
Did you just say, okay, of your daughter?
for her,
On your daughter makes it sound like someone did it to her, which isn't how that works generally.
and whatever the caseworker discussed with my daughter during the interview being a trigger, she ended up having the suicide attempt. At that point, I just made a decision to not have my children interviewed again without therapeutic support, either from
And I think that's reasonable. That's fine. If your kids are going to be interviewed by the cops, even though I don't like her, I think it's a pretty fair universal thing to have another adult in the room. And if you can't have a parent or guardian, a licensed, like, therapist that's independent from the police force, I don't think that's unreasonable.
following the ADA guidelines, or
Will Kale says, wait, BitChute has ads now? I'm guessing that ad buys on BitChute is in the tens of $1 bills. It's all scam stuff. It's almost all scam stuff. Very occasionally you'll get something that's like pseudo legit, but it's almost all scam stuff. I've seen the same ad with fake, deep faked Tom Cruise like 17 times. It's just one with fake Tom Cruise, and it's got, like, a fake AI voice with a deep faked Tom Cruise telling you to get a certain kind of, like, dental thing.
following therapeutic support for my daughter. And I was willing to do that. So I had been cooperating with signing releases and all sorts of things.
Can we let me pause for 1 second? I never did get it. You're in Colorado?
Yes.
Okay, so can you let us know what county are you in? What city are you in? What part of Colorado are when you're dealing with what agent? I know you're dealing with probably the overall CPS or Department of Human Services, but what county are you dealing with, and where are you at geographically? I mean, you don't have to tell me specifically, but generally, where are you located?
Well, I will disclose that I'm in Douglas County. There is we are in a modified witness protection program for my daughter because she was the victim of a crime and a victim of an assault, abuse. And so we're dealing with Douglas County Human Services I guess, their child protective service agency, which appears to be under their umbrella.
Okay, yeah, please don't reveal anything that's going to give you in any danger, of course. I would never want
Yeah,
that.
but they've
The court ended up putting a gag order on her at some point because she was doing interviews and getting staff harassed, basically.
already revealed to the person. They ended up breaking the contact order and calling my daughter's abuser and letting them know that we were in Douglas County, and that was very alarming. So
Yeah, to say the least. That's probably another whole. That's probably a whole another interview altogether. I guess. I bet. Hey, for
it
crying
was
out
just
loud.
another violation of illegal or unlawful. I'm not a lawyer, but I'm sure it was quite wrong from what
Sure.
I'm told from
Yeah,
everybody.
that's because it's
From the lawyer.
witness protection means that you're supposed to be protected. I mean, that's protected from the knowledge of where you're located is certainly one of the key tenets of that program. That's for sure.
This is an agency, and my head couldn't wrap around an agency that is supposed to be protecting children.
Just a Peach with $1 tip says, I would bet that the therapist isn't licensed. That would be why CPS didn't listen to her. It's possible.
That is now putting a child
He's been into woo-woo stuff, so.
at risk. That was the problem I was having with this department right from the get-go. I couldn't understand why they were contacting somebody who was already, supposed to not know where we were to protect my daughter. It just seemed very contradicting. So they told me that they had to, that it was something that they had to do, but couldn't really give me a clear, specific reason as to why. It was alarming, and I asked the caseworker, why are you contacting my daughter's abuser, but not even returning her trauma therapist call?
Sure.
It doesn't even make sense. She's working on healing through some things. So that happened. And then moving forward,
I'm very concerned what kind of therapist this mom picked out for her kid.
I received another text, which just appeared that I would just, I guess the caseworker assumed.
You know when you can tell someone's leaving a bunch of stuff out of a story? I get that vibe from her a lot. When she's talking about that service, like, reaching out to the abuser to specifically tell where the kid is, that doesn't make any sense as told. So there's stuff being left out of that story, and you can tell because it doesn't make sense without that information in there.
That I would just go along with it, and she said that she wanted me.
Karina says, we have so many Christian counselors in Oklahoma masquerading as therapists, no less licensing required to be a counselor. Oh yeah, when I was in like high school and I was going through some shit, obviously I was going through some shit. I was in the closet about being bisexual, about being trans. I was dealing with existential things because I had been raised religious, but I was coming to not believe those things, so that's really difficult when you're trying to kind of reframe your worldview and you're like, oh, I don't believe this stuff, so what does that mean I do believe, And I was just struggling, like you couldn't believe. And my fucking mom got me into this Christian counselor, and this guy was the biggest piece of fucking shit. Awful guy. Really unhelpful. Just terrible.
She said, I have to see the kids by the end of the month. I need to pop in, very, friendly text, very.
Not an abuser, the other parent, probably. It's potential, but I think she said her husband was dead, unless this is like an ex-husband that was maybe the father of the first child, which is possible.
Innocent text, and I replied in an email to her that you can't see my daughter without therapeutic support, because the last
Are they Mormon? I actually don't know.
time she had a suicide attempt. And I also, and it's against her doctor's orders. And then I told her you needed to interview my son with the ADA guidelines. And also, I don't discuss my son's medical condition with him, and she is. Her questioning to
You
my
don't
son
you
was
don't discuss your son's medical issues with your son? What do you mean? What do you mean you don't discuss your
asking him questions like, do you really have seizures? Does your mom do that? Do you
Yeah, they're asking those questions because they suspect, understandably so, that you're the one causing them or telling the kid to lie about them. Like, that's a nonsense thing to say. You don't talk about your son's illness with him. If he was really ill, you would have to. Because if your kid was having seizures, the kid's gonna be like, Mom, what's happening after the seizures? The kid isn't just gonna have a seizure and then go back to playing and, like, be fine. That's insane and doesn't make any sense. Like, if her child was actually having seizures, it is impossible for her to claim that she is never talking to him about it. In my opinion, that's just bullshit and makes no sense. Moira Soma, thanks for gifting a sub. Really appreciate it. We're almost to 300. Almost at the end of the month, too. So if you haven't, consider gifting subs. We couldn't do the show without it.
does do you really have trouble swallowing? Do you do you really fall? Do you those were the kind of questions, and I try not to scare him and just let him be a kid. So
Why would that scare him to be asked those questions? If he was experiencing those symptoms, those wouldn't be scary questions. It would just be a straightforward question of, yes, I do. That's not a scary question if your child is actually dealing with those things. Now, those things are scary. Of course a child would be scared if they were ill and having seizures and having difficulty swallowing and these symptoms. But I don't think it would be scary just to be asked by a neutral individual, do these happen to you? That's perfectly okay. What are you talking about?
unless we're at a doctor's appointment, excuse me, I don't discuss his medical issues with him because I don't want to scare him. He's 7.
Yeah, and if he was the one experiencing the medical issues, it would be much more horrifying to not know why they were happening.
And
That would be worse. You get that would be worse, right? Your lie doesn't even make sense.
he's been tested cognitively at times to be 2 or 3. He has an intellectual disability as well as a developmental disability and physical medical complex issues. And she continued after that to inform me that I would then have to decline, or no, that we were going to have a family meeting. And I asked her what the
Yeah, I gotta go back and hear that. Sorry, I was reading something in chat.
and disability and physical medical and intellectual disabilities, because I don't want to scare him. He's 7. And he's been tested cognitively at times to be 2 or 3. He has an
Who did the cognitive testing? Yes, I would be very curious about that, Trey, because the doctors seem to disagree that actually ended up reporting her, I think. The doctors that testified against her disagree with her on that.
intellectual disability as
Moira Soma, thanks for gifting a sub.
well as a developmental disability.
And I'll be honest, if this kid does have developmental issues, I would more attribute that probably to the mom than anything else going on. That's just my opinion.
And physical medical complex issues. And she continued after that to inform me that I would then have to decline, or no, that we were going to have a family meeting. And I asked her what the family meeting was in reference to, and she said that they
Lisa
were
Lamb, thanks for gifting a sub.
going to
Almost
get
on a
me
hype train.
something called a medical navigator. And I asked her what that was, and this is all in emails. And she said it was an appointment, an appointment maker, like an appointment setter. And I thought, well, wow, that sounds great. At this point, I thought, well, if they have that service, if you can help set medical appointments, that would be great, because he doesn't see a lot of doctors, but he has therapists that come to the home to help him. And he has, just somebody to help coordinate the medical file that's quite large. And the night before I was going to the family meeting, about 9:45, I received a call from somebody on the inside of the department, who I'll keep confidential, of course, telling me uh, when I go to the family meeting to not sign any paperwork, that they don't have that service, that if I sign up for services, then I'm agreeing to their whatever allegations they have. And it was
That's not how things work. They can't just give you a random piece of paper and say it's one thing and then it's actually a confession. That's not how that works. What are you talking about? MF Baby Cakes, thanks for gifting a sub and kicking off a hype train. Thank you very much. If you want to help the hype train, subscribing, gift subs, and bits, I'll help.
basically going to be a confession for me. And at that point, I felt like this
I
person
know Nemesaur isn't here today, so this hype train is probably gonna be but that's okay.
who I didn't know that was calling me might be a little bit unhinged. I was very, cautious and thinking, well, that sounds kind of odd. I'd never heard of anything like this. But I went in and just kind of stuck that in the back of my mind. And I went into a family meeting with 3 of his providers, and I kept asking them, can you please put this?
Do you not skim what you're signing? I think she's trying to imply that regardless of what the paper says, her signature alone can be like taken from it and said, you signed a thing, we have jurisdiction. It's like a pseudo sovereign citizen argument. Overthought, thank you for gifting 5 tier 1 subs. Thank you very much. 52% to level 3. Amber says, how does this work supposedly? Does she just not read things before signing them? A confession would have to be written. Again, I just think she has sort of a sovereign citizen logic of, I don't stand under your authority. I won't sign any document. If I join this system, then I'm a part of your jurisdiction. That's the vibe I get, but that's probably because I watch Sovereign Citizens a lot, so that's where my brain goes. Maybe she'll expound.
Medical appointment maker in writing. And they wouldn't show me what services they were going to offer. They, said, no, if you don't sign, they wanted me to sign basically a blank check. They wanted me to sign up for a service plan that they were unwilling to give me the details of. And
yeah, again, I find that very difficult to believe.
I told them that
do you have that? Do you have a copy of that from your records or anything?
I would have to go take this paperwork home and go home and think about it. And they told me if I did that they were going to then have to take me to court to officially decline their services.
That doesn't make any sense. No, I don't believe her story at all. None of this makes any sense.
So I left that meeting, and then
History Chick, thank you so much for 48 months at tier 2. Incredible of you. Thank you. And got us over level, I think, 3 of the hype train, maybe 4.
Shortly thereafter, I don't have an exact timeline, I received an email stating that there was going to be a court date from one of the employees at DHS. It was the caseworker supervisor. And I asked her, well, what was the court hearing about? She told me, I'll find out when I get there. And I asked her, then I had found out she had contacted my daughter's father against the contact order. And I said, why has he been contacted?
Okay, so it is the daughter's father. Okay. Well, there we go. We got a little bit of confirmation about that. Lisa Lamb, thanks for 500 bits, says Hype Train. Daddledoo says she's an idiot, but I do wish I had the kind of blind confidence only the stupid possess. Here's the thing. That kind of confidence, if you happen to be right, can be great. That kind of confidence when you're wrong is catastrophic, and, like, she went to jail for this and lost her kid, so, it can go really well if you get very lucky. Most of the time, it's not a utility that's good for you. Moira Soma, thanks for gifting a sub to Daddledoo.
And
43% to level 4.
I said, is this about my son or my daughter?
Thank you, everyone, for your generosity today's hype train. I'm sorry, I said the thing about Nemesaur. I negged my audience.
Daughter.
And they responded. Mystery was right.
And she said,
not my fault, Chad is a floozy.
You'll find out when you get there. And I said, do I need to bring an attorney? She said, well, you'll have 30 minutes if you want to apply for one. And then I emailed the ombudsman and asked them, which is an overseeing regulating agency that's supposed to oversee the this child protective services unit, to make sure that what's being done is, following legal guidelines. And I emailed them and
By all means, that's great. Make sure all the legal guidelines are being followed, even and especially in cases where a parent might actually be guilty of abuse. I want to make sure that all the legal T's and I's are crossed and dotted respectively, you know? But I don't think you're going to find anything. In fact, I'm in the future from your perspective, and I know you're wrong, so. Alted Undying, thanks for gifting a sub, and Bittergrin, thanks for gifting a sub. Very, very generous of all of you. Thank you.
I said,
86% to level 4.
These people aren't telling me what's going on and what I'm going to court for, and I don't.
Yes, you're the alleged abuser. I imagine they're trying to keep it a little bit on the DL to make sure that you don't run away with the kid, which you tried to do later anyway via the kidnapping.
Have a copy of a petition. Is that legal, and is that normal? Because I still was kind of confused as to what was going on.
See the lawful and legal thing she's doing too, very sovereign citizen. Moira Soma, thanks for gifting a sub and getting us over level 4. Will we get to level 5 without Nemesaur? Genuinely incredible. My audience fucking rules.
And the ombudsman replied to me, yeah, that's exactly what you're supposed to do, which I found out later was not. So I contacted a friend of mine who was an attorney outside of this and just asked, I've got an email that there's a court hearing. Should I show up to it? Yeah, I don't know what this is for.
You should show up to court hearings, because if you don't, you're going to get a warrant for your arrest. That's a bench warrant. That's not good. That's not fun. Don't do that.
I have no idea.
Frankly, they're not even going to, wait to pull you over with that bench warrant. They're going to come to your house, because it's a matter where they think you're abusing your child. They're going to come and pick you up if you don't show up to court on that one.
I'm going to court. And he said, well, why don't you just show up anyway and see what it's about? And I show up to the court. So that, let me back up a little bit. So then a half an hour before that court hearing, I got a call.
She seems more possessive of her kids, like they're her property. I'm not feeling love or sorrow for being separated from her babies. Bizarre. Yeah, no, this is common for these kind of people. I've covered people before who are anti-CPS and have had their kid taken away, seemingly rightfully. I'm not of the opinion that CPS always gets it right, but I think they're, on the whole, a necessary and generally positive thing to have in the government. And they're always like this. The most ardent people about this are always people who consider their kids their property. If not implicitly, I've heard some of them explicitly describe their children as their property, and they will cite, laws and stuff that are regarding property rights vis-a-vis the government, as if their children are literally property legally. It's sick. Holy Input, thanks for gifting 5 tier 1 subs, 90% to level 5. Wow, I need to neg chat more often.
Call.
Thank you, everyone.
From the supervisor of the supervisor, who told me that the court hearing had been rescheduled for about a week and a half later. So it wasn't an emergency thing to me.
Unstable Deadbeat, thanks for gifting a sub and getting us over level 5. Just a Peach says, ombudsmen are normally for reported issues from social workers or foster kids. Ombudsman? Did she say that? I missed that. Can you explain? Ombudsman.
It didn't appear to be an emergency of any kind. And I said, okay, no problem. And they told me they said they'll let me know when it's rescheduled. So then I found out 2 days prior.
Overthought says, you can thank my father's lack of approval for me being responsive to negging. Oh, too real. Report, I'm in this picture and I don't like it.
Prior to the reschedule, I found out on a Wednesday that it was going to be rescheduled for that Friday at 1. So I had a friend drive.
Money is important. Holy Input, thank you.
We rode together down there, and I got to the courthouse. I ended up going, and I got down there.
Norwegian word, ombudsman.
And there was a gentleman on the bottom floor. It was a small courthouse, gentleman on the bottom floor that helped.
Ombudsman, definition, an appointed official whose duty is to investigate complaints, generally on behalf of individuals, such as consumers or taxpayers, against institutions, such as companies and government departments. So does it... Oh, okay, I see. I got you. That makes sense.
To me, and he said, well, I don't see anything on the docket. And I said, okay. And so we went up to the courtroom that was in the email, the room number. Nobody was in there. And it was about 1:45, and the hearing was supposed to be at 1, this court hearing to deny services. And about 10 minutes to 1, the whole team from the department walked in. It was the attorney, the supervisor, the caseworker who had fabricated the petition, and
Fabricated the petition. Is it fabricated because you don't like it? Everything's fraudulent if I don't like it.
her supervisor and a guardian ad litem, and then a court appointed attorney walked in, but I didn't know who all of these people were at that time. And the attorney for the department walked over and asked me if I would sign a paper waiving my rights to be served. I said, well, I haven't been served anything.
Yes, they're asking if you would waive your right to be served, because if you don't, that's fine, they're just going to serve you, but since you both know that that's what's going to happen here, it just saves you both time. A lot of things in court are like that. There's like waivers of certain things, because a lot of stuff is procedural, and it's important that those procedures be there so that there are checks along the way to make sure everyone's rights are being respected. But a lot of the time it is just something that's basically procedural, and you can go, okay, that's fine. I get it. Yep, okay. Yep, I get it. You're basically serving me here because I'm admitting that you're going to serve me. Cool. It's not a big deal. It's not going to really affect whether or not you are served. You will be served. This just saves everyone time.
And I said,
the people she was trying to report the social workers to, the parents did foster care. One of my siblings had to talk to them about one of their old foster parents. Yeah, okay, makes sense.
He said I wasn't allowed to see the petition until...
Yes, the kids are away from her. She lost custody, I believe, and the daughter's no longer a minor, based on linear time. The son, I believe, is still with the foster family. I don't think she has custody.
Till I waived my rights to be served. But he had it right there. And I said, well, can you give it to me? He said, oh, not till you waive your rights to be served.
Minute on the hype train.
So I said, well, if I waive my rights to be served, can I receive it? And this is still now going on 5-1. So I said, well, okay, I'll waive my right to be served right now. And then if you give me the petition, then I can at least see why I'm here. And at that point, he then, before giving me the petition, wanted me to sign a paper stating that I had read and understood the petition and all of its consequences. And I declined to sign that because I hadn't read the petition or been given the petition yet. And then the hearing, or then they asked me to fill out a paper, a financial statement that appeared that I was over the income for court-appointed counsel.
I mean, are you over the income for court-appointed counsel? If you're answering truthfully on your income, that's not forcing you. That's just like, you're legally required to tell the truth on that. Holy input, thanks for another 5 subs. Generous with the subs today. Thank you.
So since
thanks for that hype train, everyone. Seriously, couldn't do it without y'all.
I was over the income for the court-appointed counsel.
Oh, that's a good emote too. Magnifying glass and purple hair. It's like it was made for me.
The magistrate came out and started the hearing and said she would give me the counsel anyway. So I think they wanted to give me that court-appointed attorney so they could move forward with that informal hearing. So
what does a subscription mean? Basically, people don't have to watch ads. If you have a subscription, you no longer have to watch ads, and you also gain access to emotes that are specific to the channel.
She gave me a court...
I need to revamp our emotes. They've been the same for so long.
Appointed a counsel.
And I have stuff saved. Sometime in the next week, I need to sit down and just, boom, take all the stuff I've saved and turn them into emotes.
I had 10 minutes to talk to the counsel, and there was about a 15 to 20 page petition
Yes, and it supports streamers. It's the main way we make money and can do this for a living is when people subscribe. So if no
had
one
been written
subscribed, this show wouldn't exist.
with no time to read it and no time to go through anything. And I had brought no paperwork with me because I didn't know why I was there. I had no idea what to bring. And that's all in emails to the ombudsman and to the department. What should I bring? Should I bring anything? Oh, no, don't bring anything. You don't need to bring anything. And so here I was unprepared for something I had no idea what I was there for.
It's not the job of that person, to my knowledge, to let you know what you need for court.
And the hearing starts. And
You can subscribe yourself, Holy Input, just so you know. Tea Time Tea with 32 months says, hey y'all, happy Sunday.
Magistrate asks
You
me
too.
why I haven't signed the petition. And she asks me, well, you don't understand it, almost like in a condescending, like I can't read or I'm not educated. And I said, I haven't read it. How can I understand something I haven't read? And then she says, well, let me explain to you. You're here for severe abuse against your child. I can't quote exactly.
I would imagine there was an allegedly in there. Judges are usually pretty good about trying to preserve your presumption of innocence and say, alleged.
What she said, because I was, kind of bamboozled at that point. And she then said to me, is your son terminal? Is your son terminal? 3 times. And I said, no. And then she asked the department what their side was. And they had all kinds of papers and stuff. And they said, well, she's been uncooperative since January. She hasn't let us do anything. And then, I still hadn't read the petition, so I really wasn't quite sure what they were talking
I
about.
find it interesting, too, that the host basically doesn't need to be here. He hasn't asked any clarifying questions this entire time so far. Or questioned a single piece of her narrative.
And
not a very good interviewer.
Then she asked me if my son had a brain tumor, and I said no. And then she said, well, court orders for department to take custody of the child. And I kept telling my court-appointed attorney, you need to reserve my right to a jury trial. I at least knew that I had that constitutional right.
If you're criminally charged, but you don't have a right to a jury trial in terms of custody for your child, that's not how that works.
And she didn't want to do that.
They learned how to interview from Joe Rogan. No, he's not being obnoxious and getting high right now.
And finally, I said it loud enough that I said,
he hasn't once said, Jamie, pull up that clip.
That she finally said, we reserve our right for a jury trial. So at least I got that supposedly on a transcript somewhere. So the hearing ended. They followed me back. And in the hearing, they told me that if I didn't sign the petition, or I'm sorry, they would, we could do this quietly, or they could bring police officers to my house, one of the two. So they follow me back to my house. My son is playing Jenga with his sister. They remove him from the home.
And he immediately got better. Again, once he was removed from the home, no seizures, no trouble swallowing, none of the issues she claimed he was having. He was fine.
And I didn't want him to be scared, so I told him that me and his sister had to go to a graduation for his older brother who was graduating from Washington and Lee. But, I said, Mommy forgot. It's a little bit early. We forgot our plane tickets are now. And I said, no, I'll see you in a couple days. And so he got in the car and he didn't want to go and he was confused and they didn't take his medical equipment. And she put him in a car and I haven't seen him since. And at that point, she left a home packet on my counter that said, you can look at this sometime. You don't have to worry about it. And it was kind of a whirlwind. So he was gone within 30 minutes. And at that point, I ended up reading the petition. And the petition was full of...
Lucas Dawn says being a heavy weed smoker is like being a vegan in that there are some really loud assholes that make the rest of us look bad. Yep. There's a reason 420's the one day of the year I'm allowed to be cringe about weed. Rest of the time, who cares? It's not your goddamn personality.
Fabrications and a lot of blatant just lies that I had given my older son, who's 22, Jeremy, chemotherapy, that I had shaved my daughter's head and said that she had cancer. I mean, it was a direct. If you had read this not knowing me, you would think that I was like, my God, like a murderer or some kind of crazy woman.
Oh, I can't imagine why.
Let me circle back for a minute if I can here. This is compelling stuff, no doubt about it, and I mean that.
Yeah, don't do that. No calls to violence. No calls to harm.
Did CPS come into your life for the very reason that someone filed a complaint that you were misdiagnosing your child's illness?
I mean, no. The issue is that they're alleging that the child isn't ill at all, and that's what the evidence shows. That the child was not ill, and she was manufacturing the illness, either through lies or potentially making the kid sick. I don't know if that was the case or if it was just the lying. Either way, not good.
Is that the whole reason that they got into that they're even in your life? I mean, because someone made a call?
Just a Peach says, the packet would have had direction on what she would have to do to get her kid back, like parenting classes. I imagine she just didn't want to admit that she had done anything.
To them? I mean, is that how it started?
I have no idea. It appears that it had something to do with the school not giving services. So the best.
No, it wasn't. She's such a liar. It's so hard listening to someone and just keep having to keep reminding yourself they're lying. They're lying. They're lying. Because humans have a truth bias. Like, we want to believe what people are saying to us, more or less. Because if you don't, society doesn't function very well. We like to believe that what people are telling us is true. It's our default until we're given a reason to think otherwise. And just listening to this woman, if I didn't know the story and didn't know all the red flags, maybe you would believe her. But she's not. She's lying and or delusional. And she's just out here spreading it. It's crazy. Toreador, thanks for 59 months of subscribing on Twitch.
I could conclude that is if the school didn't give him his federal services that were guaranteed.
60 months next month, that's 5 years. Have I been doing this for 5 years?
According to his specialist.
Sad.
Then if the school doesn't give him the services that he's guaranteed and that he needs, we're not even talking about education. We're just talking about bare bone, low-lying fruit of safety so he can walk through the door. If the school didn't give him what he needed to go to school, to be able to walk through the door to attend a public school, then if I'm fabricating illnesses or misrepresenting them, then it pretty much exonerates the school. And I think that might have been tied into it because it was shortly.
No, that's such a stretch. That doesn't even make sense.
After that they showed up.
Now, let me ask you.
I started at the start of the pandemic. I did. You're right.
This question, because I know people are going to ask and viewers are going to ask.
Baha says humans also tend to believe the first version of the story they hear. Even presented evidence that proves the first version wrong, people still believe it's true. Yeah. We have a lot of biases.
You don't have any.
The best you can do is try and be informed about them and check yourself on them. No one's going to be perfect. But you got to do your best, man.
Background and history of any violence or any charges against your children or anything like that as far as, I mean, I know I hate to say that, but people are going to ask, they're going to put in the comments because everybody has the concept. And I'm trying to change this mindset. And I've said on 2 or 3 different videos, just because folks, and I'll say this again directly to the camera, understand, I've reported on this numerous times, just because CPS shows up at someone's house doesn't mean that they're bad parents or that they've done something wrong. We have to break that paradigm because immediately we're thinking here. Let me go back over here. I apologize. I'm off. Can you see me? Yeah. Okay. I'm back on. Yeah. Okay. So immediately we're thinking here.
To go out on a limb here, I don't know if this is a hot take. I would hope not. Most of the time when CPS gets involved, there's a good reason. Most of the time. Not saying all of the time, but most of the time.
That Cynthia, the concept is if CPS shows up, you're a bad parent. That's what everybody thinks, and we have to break that paradigm. I mean, I don't know how else to put it.
CPS showed up to talk to my dad, and he was a bad parent.
Well, I want to say this. Up until 24 days ago today, my general, I guess, opinion would have been if a parent would have come up to me and said, CPS removed my child, I would, and said for no reason, in the back of my mind, I would have thought there's got to be more to the story. And I'm just saying that because
Did they do anything? No.
I've never had something like this happen to me. I would have thought, well, they've got to have a reason. They don't take them for nothing. These are the kind of general things that we as a society, I think. And I'm sure there are cases where children need to be removed from abusive situations. I'm sure of that. It's not black or white. But in this case, there wasn't. There was not a reason. A possible misrepresentation of a medical illness is not an emergency. And when his doctor writes me a letter stating that they wouldn't listen to her opinion, and she's the doctor treating him, that they
What are her qualifications? Like, I'm genuinely asking only because this lady is involved in a lot of pseudo-legal stuff and has connections to QAnon. She strikes me as the kind of person who might also seek out pseudo-scientific medicine, alternative medicine, aka not medicine.
had made up their mind to take him regardless of her opinion. It's very scary because, you want to believe that they're going to do some due diligence and investigate the proper people.
They are. You are the proper people to investigate.
There's a lot of money involved in this whole entire thing here. We know there's a lot of money involved in it.
Not really. Again, CPS is a government agency. It doesn't make money. It costs money to run. It's not a profit center. This is such a bizarre thing that QAnon and QAnon adjacent people believe, that like judges or anyone in the system is getting rich off of this. They're not. What are you talking about? It costs money to run these departments. People are making paychecks from them because people work there, but their paycheck isn't higher or lower based on how many kids they, remove from households. What are you talking about?
And I think children that have disabilities, I think are even, I hate to say it.
Her kid doesn't have disabilities. Just a Peach with $1 tip says, I'm also know how a little bit of special ed system works. They probably told her that had to take him to a farther school that had people who would notice the medical problems are bunk. Maybe.
They're even more lucrative. I've said it numerous times on the broadcast. Children have turned into commodities.
No, they haven't. Not in the way you're describing. I wonder if this guy had his kid taken away. Like, the fact that he's, super into this stuff, too. I'm curious if he also got his kid taken away and is, super salty about it. Oh, yeah, his whole channel is this crap. Let me save this for a sovereign citizen thing. That'll probably relate somewhere in there.
Just turned into...
He did? Shocking!
Commodities, as sad as it is to admit that. Do you see that as well? Do you see there being a financial incentive behind this at all, Cynthia?
What would be the financial incentive for anyone involved in this?
Have you done that much digging yet, or are you still just so blown away by the whole thing you just haven't had a chance really to explore that option?
Well, what I found out was I think the minute they walked out the door with my son, it was between $3,000 to $6,000 that they got.
Based on what? No, what are you talking about? You're just saying random shit. I think, for no reason, that they got thousands of dollars for no reason. That's not how any of this works. What are you talking about?
And I know that they're going to try to get his survivor's benefits and get his, they're going to take the Social Security.
The survivor's benefits are for him when he turns 18. They're not going to take his social security. What are you talking about?
And that not only did they rip him from a loving home where he was getting medical treatment, they're not giving him the proper medical treatment.
He doesn't need medical treatment. Your child is fine. You were making him sick or lying about him being sick.
He needs wherever he is. Nobody's spoken to him. He could be across
I
the
can't
state
believe they
line.
can just kidnap people like this in America.
They're not the kid at least. The only people being kidnapped in America these days are people getting kidnapped by fucking ICE.
They can just kidnap your child in America. You don't know where your own child
She's a psycho that was hurting her kid.
is. You haven't abused your child. You
She did. She was abusing her child.
don't have any
Whether she was actively making him sick or using him as a prop and lying about symptoms, that's abuse. Either way you cut it.
history of abuse. You don't, I mean, Cynthia,
Just a Peach says, my parents spent thousands more each year than they received. Yeah, foster parents will receive a small stipend, I think, from the state, but it's not enough to cover the expenses of a whole-ass kid. Like, if you are a foster parent, you are taking on a responsibility and an expense. You know, I'm not trying to put it down to money here, but, like, raising children, whether, you know, you're fostering them or any other reason you're taking care of them, costs a lot of money. So, like, that's a responsibility to take on.
it's off the rails. I can't get my mind around it.
I can't get a court record of the court hearing that was not on the docket. I can't get transcripts. I cannot get a record of the court hearing where they took him. Excuse me. I can't seem to get anything. I don't know what location he's at. I don't know what medical tests they're doing on him. I don't have any idea where he's at. I don't know what he's thinking.
You don't have custody right now, or ever, so yeah, that's good. That's good that you don't have that information.
And you know, Jim,
what's her name? Cynthia Absug, or yeah, I think Absug. Last name Abcug.
The things
you can find plenty of news stories about her. I had an AP article pulled up earlier. Let me see if I can. Here's a link that has her name in it if you'd like.
That I try not to go there in my mind is, what did they tell him? Did they tell him that we don't want him? Did they tell him that you know what I mean?
No, they probably explained it in some sort of way that's age appropriate. I don't know how I do that. I'm not a social worker. I imagine they're trained in how to talk to children about this at a way that is age appropriate.
He has a very fun, active life here to the best of his ability. And he has he has a support dog. He just was ripped out of everything.
A support dog, but not a, what's the actual word for when it's an officially trained animal? Service animal. He has a support animal, not a service animal. So he has a dog. He has a dog. And I'm not saying if you have a support animal, that's not a valid thing. I'm just saying she's making it sound like he needs one to, like, get around or, like, protect him. I don't think that's the case. I think they just have a dog that she's calling a comfort dog or whatever.
Without his medical services that he needs, his doctor's concerned. Nobody knows what's going on.
He's fine. Again, he was completely fine as soon as he got out of her custody. He wasn't sick at all.
Well, the department, I'm sure, knows, but, you know, nobody on this
Yeah, she didn't say service animal. That's why I'm saying that it's not that. She said support animal, which is a different thing that isn't, I don't think there's an official licensing or anything for that, where there is for service animals.
Nobody in my family was contacted for kinship. Nothing. There's just no paperwork.
It's like the Soviet secret police. It literally.
it's like the communism. It's like communism. Guys, he finally did it. The Trump supporter mentioned communism in a fear-mongering way. We did it.
is like the Soviet secret police. They pick you up and you disappear and no one knows where you are. I mean,
Yeah,
tell me I'm
have
wrong.
no
I wonder how this guy feels about, like what has happened recently to American citizens that have been deported. Not even deported, because they weren't. Deportation is technically someone who's undocumented in the country being sent back to their country of origin. This isn't the case. An American citizen, or at least a couple American citizens, being sent out of the country. So I'm curious how he feels about that. Probably doesn't give a shit, because he's a Trump supporter.
I do.
Tell me I'm wrong.
Yeah,
I just don't.
and then, so moving forward.
Yeah,
I
what can we
did
do to
get-
help? What can we do to help? I know you got a website as far as the GoFundMe account. I mean, yeah, moving forward, how can we help you here, Cynthia? How can we help you get your child back?
I did fire the court-appointed attorney because I was caregiver. When we relocated out here to Colorado, I had to give up my job so he could be treated by Dr. Collins. Somebody, I think at the end of Megan Fox's article, she has a GoFundMe page set up so I could
Holy input. Thanks for gifting 5 tier 1 subs. You've been
pay-
gifted a crazy amount of subs today. Thank
get
you.
a private attorney to file an emergency motion to have him returned for violation of constitutional rights and civil rights and no due process. According to what I found out,
You're undergoing the due process.
I was supposed to be subpoenaed, witness, there was supposed to be some formal testimony taken, a chance to defend myself, to know what I was being alleged of, any of that. So that GoFundMe is up and running, and I'm hoping to get enough money to pay a private attorney to get him home. As soon as I guess one of the reporters called the court-appointed attorney, she immediately withdrew within 4 minutes. But what's interesting is, she couldn't even, she said she didn't have the time to prepare an emergency motion to return him, but she could sure, withdraw within a few minutes. So I'm starting to see where it's more beneficial for them to have him in some kind of foster facility or wherever he is than to have him in the home with me.
I appreciate it, Holy input.
I just didn't know this was happening up until a short time ago. I'm not going to give up my fight. I'm not going to give my fight to get my son back. I'd like to give him a hug or hold him. I'd touch him.
Yeah, of course.
Maybe slip some pills into his drink.
Of course, it's your child. Folks, we need to go out here and we need to help Cynthia here. We need to go to the GoFundMe page. It's called Bring
I wonder if people actually gave her money for this shit.
Michael Home to His Family, and I'll put the link on the notes and the show notes below this video. You just saw the page here. Let me bring it up again. I'm bringing it up on the video right now. That's what it looks like. Bring Michael Home to His Family. GoFundMe. This poor woman only has $70 of her $20,000 goal. Come on, folks. We need to we need to all reach out and help people like Cynthia because no one else is doing it. I mean, you can see, Cynthia, I've talked to people that have had the judge has ruled that they are safe and their environment's safe. They've passed multiple tests. They've passed multiple drug screenings, and CPS will still not give them their children back. It's an agency that's run amok, that's off the rails. They're
DPS can't defy court orders, so I'm gonna put X to doubt on that one. If the court told them to return the child, they're not gonna not return the child.
outside the law. They operate
It's
outside the
heartbreaking.
law. It's unbelievable.
The amount of it's heartbreaking, Jim. The amount of families that are contacting me in tears is unbelievable.
Oh, I know.
in this
I know.
for
I'm
a
with
short
you.
time. I like I said, I try not to go there. I don't know where he is. I don't believe what they say anymore because of the amount of lies on the petition.
Ironic.
And I don't know if you looked in Megan's article. I immediately went down and did my own drug screening after I read the petition.
I saw
and-
that. I saw that.
Yeah. And then they tried to say that mine was negative. I hear within this particular community that that's something that's been done frequently to other parents. And fortunately for me, I had my
Unbelievable is a good word for what she just said. I like the term incredible. That's one of my favorites to throw out, because literally it is incredible. Incredible.
own done, and it was coincidentally sent to the same lab. So, I guess
Yeah, no, they should be marching people out and frog walking them out to patrol cars in handcuffs for fabricating that information right there. They should be locking these people up.
You have evidence that something was fabricated, do something about it. You're not even really providing what specifically you're saying was fabricated. It's almost like you're fabricating something. Wow.
Up and throwing them in jail. I give them a little bit of taste of their own medicine. This is a nationwide epidemic. This is not,
just do what Trump supporters always do during an epidemic, not give a shit.
know that you are dealing with this personally, and I can't even imagine how it tears your heart out. But I know it's not, I know it's cold comfort, but you're not alone. I know it doesn't help, but you're not alone. I mean, this is so widespread, and I'm doing everything I can here to try to bring this up and get this word out and let people know. And for the sake of brevity, it's probably not a bad idea to wind down the interview here, just so, for watchability, so people will continue to watch it. Before we go, one more time, how can people reach out to you if you even have that option? Give out as much information as you feel that you want to. People that are trying, that want to support you, do you have an email address that you have set aside for that? We showed the website, Bring Michael Home to His Family, on GoFundMe. Anything else that you'd like to say before we let you go?
If anybody would like to reach out, I have an email set up called Bring
Okay.
And anybody's willing to reach out to me. It's a very small support of a community within this. It might be larger than I've encountered. I think the general bias is that
I wonder what she's up to these days. Because this was a couple of years ago at this point. It was 3 years ago at this point. And then, of course, later she went to jail for whatever it was, 90 days with a 3-year suspended sentence, which would still be ongoing, the suspended sentence, at this point, although we'd be near the end of it, I think. I'm just curious, I guess, what she's up to, how she feels about all of this,
It's hard to get support when you're in the situation because, like we talked about earlier, I think people in the general public have a tendency to think that there's more to the story than what there really is. And I don't have a history of abuse, and I don't have a history.
Okay, well, court says otherwise. Holy Input, thanks for gifting 10 tier 1 subs.
Of
wow.
Hurting my
that was a crazy goddamn sub day.
Children. And you can see with the letters which my kids have written. My older 2 boys would vouch for my daughter. I mean,
And your drug test came back totally negative, and you did follicle tests and everything. So
that's fine. I don't think the allegations were primarily that you were, doing drugs or anything. I'm pretty sure it was that you were, doing the Munchausen by proxy.
If you were like a quote-unquote a meth head, for example, that would have all came up in the follicle test. And all. So you're drug-free, you're abuse-free, you're...
Okay, there isn't a drug test for abuse. So don't say you're abuse-free.
Crime-free, you have done nothing...
Okay, she's saying that. That doesn't make it true.
Except have a child that has a disability, and now your child's not with you.
Doesn't have a disability.
I mean,
yeah,
much.
But from what I'm hearing, and I guess somebody pulled up the numbers and sent them to me. If you look at the numbers, because of his medical condition,
it is nice, Holy Input. Thank you.
Disability would be quite valuable for a removal. And that when I look back,
wow, and now the sub goal is exactly at 333. So nice.
On the questions that were asked as a quote, I guess, for lack of better words, almost like a profiling.
Freemason.
The questions that were asked at the beginning how much Social Security does he get? And I thought, what does that have to do with abuse? I was kind of confused.
I think they just need to know that for bureaucratic reasons. They just want to know that because they need to know how much he's supposed to be getting in support from the Social Security, because they're going to be, handing custody over to foster parents, and presumably as his guardian, they're going to need to manage that for him. So they need to know that information. Oh, sorry, I missed a tip, apparently. Just a Peach says, parenting classes is first on the list with other stuff. CPS also would be weirded out by a parent going to get a drug test without a court order. Yeah, it's such a strange, look, you say I'm abusing my child. Look, I'm not on drugs. It's we didn't ask about drugs. What are you talking about?
How much does he get survivor's benefits? How many services is he getting? Like they're pulling.
Again, yes, that's information they would need for someone else to take custody of the kid because they're the guardian, and that's information the guardian needs.
From something, and I just want him home.
Yeah.
I don't know where, I don't
Too bad, I'm sure you do. I'm sure he's brought you a lot of attention that makes you feel very good and special.
want him to
Luckily, other people are protecting him from you.
think we forgot about him. I don't want him to think we don't love him.
Sure.
And as a parent,
You probably don't. I think you think you love him, but if you love someone, you don't harm him that way. So you don't really. I know you feel like you love him, but love is more than just a feeling. Kind of also reflected in your actions, you know? And to be fair, Munchausen's and Munchausen's by proxy is a mental disorder. I understand that, but like, you're actively engaging in this mental disorder in a way that is harming someone else, you know? Plenty of serial killers had, like, mental issues too, but that doesn't forgive the fact that they were hurting people, you know?
that bond, I can feel him when he's hurting. I can feel him in my heart. And and any parents out there that are going through this, the word that I would say is hold it together during the day when everything's open. Reach out to as many representatives as you can in your district. Reach out to as many other parents that are going.
Lennon Cat says her walking into CPS and handing over her unrequested drug test, my not involved in human trafficking t-shirt has people asking a lot of questions already answered by my shirt. Abusers can be victims, but they're still abusers. Yeah.
Going through it, who can offer support and hope. And then if you have to fall apart at night. And if you need to, write your child letters when they're gone so that you can, feel some kind of a connection towards them until they do come home.
Cynthia, I just can't even imagine the anguish that you're going through. And God love you. And we'll certainly put you on our prayer list for my family to pray for you and your family. We're going to continue to stay on top of this, folks.
Thank God prayer doesn't do anything.
You can, again, reach out at GoFundMe.com. Bring Michael home to his family. I'm going to flick over there one more time on the screen. There you go. Bring Michael home to his family. GoFundMe.com. Let's help Cynthia and her family get united again. I don't know what else to say, Cynthia, except that you have our support here at Northwest Urban News, and we thank you so much for the opportunity to get this information out. And folks, this is for each and every one of you out there that are watching this interview. This could be you next. Okay, this is you. This is all of us.
Why is he facing away in the picture? It could A, be a generic picture that isn't actually the kid, and they probably also want anonymity, which I would agree with. They're a kid. The kid's the victim here. I don't want the kid to, have his privacy disrespected.
There's wonderful families across America that are being victimized like this every single solitary day, every day, and their voices being censored and squelched, and they're gag ordered, and it's a crime, folks. It's a crime that's going on in America, and this poor young woman here and her family are just the latest victims. We appreciate you so much, Cynthia, for stopping by. For my guest, Cynthia, this is James White from Northwest Urban News saying bye.
Thanks for having me, James.
You're quite welcome.
Thanks for keeping us in your prayers. God bless.
God bless you. Bye now.
Thanks, James. Bye.
Bye.
All right, give me 1 sec to find the next video. Oh no, I'm on the big screen. I don't like that. Give me a sec. Where did that video go?
Hey guys.
David of Sword.
I think I found it.
Hey guys, welcome to VLTV. Our guest tonight is a mother of 4 who has lived in Colorado with her 2 youngest children for the past year and a half. where she transferred to in order to seek treatment for her 7-year-old disabled son at Colorado
Again, not disabled to our knowledge.
Children's Hospital. In May of this year, her son was illegally seized by CPS.
I appreciate the holy input, but the last thing I need right now, as fun as the Switch 2 is, I'm sure, I have bills and stuff I need to pay. I can't be, fucking around with that shit.
And has not been
I appreciate the thought.
seen by anyone in her family since. They don't even know if he is still in the state. Here to tell another horrifying story of the world's largest legalized human trafficking ring.
Again, CPS is not human trafficking. I get you don't want your kid taken away. That's not the point. Your kid is a human being with rights, and if the rights are being, what's the word I'm thinking of? Sorry. If you're not respecting their rights, or if you're somehow impeding on their rights, and they're harming them, abusing them, then the kid needs to be taken away for their own protection.
Cynthia
Violated. I couldn't think of the word violated. Benikagami says, to be fair, abusers don't often realize they're abusing you. Humans are weird in how layered their thinking is. Sometimes someone can love you and still be abusive in ignorance, especially for the neglect. This can be why therapy can help solve family issues. In her case, she doesn't, because her child is a tool for her ego, but abusers are humans, and abuse exists on a spectrum. See, I think we're just defining it differently. I think you can feel the emotion love for someone while not fulfilling that feeling in the real world. There's two kinds of love. There's the love you feel and the love you express. And I don't feel like she's expressing love towards her child. Or if you are an abuser, you can maybe think or feel love for a child, but if you're not expressing that love, you don't really love that child as a verb. You know what I mean? As a thing you're doing. Holy input. Thanks for another 10 tier 1 subs. Wow, you're really just going for it today, huh? I don't read Cyrillic.
I'm sad. Hey, Cynthia.
Hi, guys. Thanks for having me on tonight.
Thank you for telling your heartbreaking story. Wow. I don't know if Jim is up to date on this story, but I know you're keeping track of the days that your baby has been gone.
Yeah, today's day 40. He was taken on May 17th on a Friday.
And what was the reason that they came in and took him? Can you give us some background?
Yeah, let me start with what happened last October. First of all, rolling back a little bit.
Trey says, as an example, I used to know this sex worker that primarily practiced the action of love and not sex. I mean, there are people who would pay her for more emotional satisfaction as well as sexual. Is that related? Because we were talking about love. I understand what you're saying. I don't know if love would be the word I'd use for that. Affection, affectionate act, and touch, potentially. Not sexual, but like, hug, cuddle, I don't know.
My son has a condition, a seizure disorder, that they have not been able to pinpoint the cause of his seizures. So he had a couple of seizures that caused some brain damage back in Florida, and his doctor transferred him out here to Colorado. I
know I keep really hitting this point, but again, this child has had no health issues since removed from her for years.
November of 2017. So that's about how long we've been out here. I brought my daughter with me out here.
Absug looks like someone threw darts at the alphabet and said, that'll do. Fuck! Why is my brother-in-law funnier than me on my own show? God damn it.
She's 15.
He's better at Mario Party, too.
And we came out here, and I left my job in Florida and came out here to seek treatment for him, to help him get to the, help him get to the bottom of the seizure disorder.
He should stream. Funny enough, he does. Just not this kind of streaming. The way I made that sound made it sound like it's a different kind of streaming than I intended. Not sexual.
The initial trouble started with him when transitioning into first grade. Out here in Colorado, they have a
No, I
half
just
day
said
for
it's not
kindergarten. I
sexual.
don't know where you guys are if they have that. So he was going to the half day kindergarten. He had a teacher and 2 aides, and that seemed to be okay for him as far as support in his elementary school for kindergarten. And transitioning into the first grade, his kindergarten teacher told me that he would need
I've already said too much. I don't know if Broha wants me to say anything about what he does, so I'm gonna shut up now unless he says otherwise.
something called a para.
I wouldn't be specific, but if he wants me to say what it is vaguely, I will, but I won't say anything otherwise.
Professional,
I'm good. I'm real good at this.
which is a somebody to help him, opening his lunch and go using the restroom safely and putting on his jacket, things like that. He his doctor then, his head doctor, Dr. Collins at the hospital, wrote a letter to the school board, explaining to the school,
I can be vague. Okay, Broha does a stream where he like sells antique or vintage books, basically. He goes out to like thrift stores and stuff, finds all sorts of interesting and old books, and then he goes online and does live streams where he basically sells them to people and people bid. He's good at it. I've seen his stream. He's good at it. Finds really cool books too.
explaining to them that he needed this support. And
Benikagami says, my point is that an abuser who feels love for the child can be taught to love through action as well. I mean, spanking your child is abuse, but realizing the problem is you can get you to stop, and loving the child is often the motive to stop. The problem is that in many cases, whatever love they have for the child isn't enough to stop the abuse. I guess what you're saying might be true. I find it hard to integrate any of what you're saying because of my own experience, but I completely understand that's because of my own experience, and my own personal feelings about my experience are getting in the way.
and then moving forward to October of last year, we had an IEP meeting, and they declined the services. So Colorado Disability Law stepped in for him as an advocate for him, and we met again with the school board in a meeting, and presented the doctor's orders, 2 of his doctor's orders, that he would need some help at school with that particular support, and they declined again. So at that point, to remain in compliance with his doctor's orders, I ended up having to homeschool him. So at that point in October,
I find it very hard to believe that the school didn't have the resources for your son, but somehow you think you homeschooling the son does? You have fewer resources in education than the school does about the pedagogy of like dealing with kids with disabilities. Like, what are you talking about?
And my background is marketing, not homeschooling. So I had made a decision to, okay, we're out here for treatment, pick your battles. Let me just, instead of pursuing the support, which I was told by his treatment team would be quite an endeavor, I decided to homeschool him. And that started in October. And then in January, I had the Children's Services, the CPS, knocking on my door. And they were telling me that the reason that they were knocking on my door was possible misrepresentation of illness.
So what did that mean to you? Possible misrepresentation?
Well,
what could that mean? It's so obscure. It means she's lying or fabricating illnesses for her son because she allegedly has Munchausen by proxy.
I didn't think much of it. I told the young lady, the caseworker, to just call his doctor, because she had all the medical reports. And then moving forward she left at that meeting, at the January meeting. I gave her the doctor's numbers and the releases to call the doctors and to get all the information. She came again in February and did another interview. And then in March, I'm trying to remember if she did another interview in March.
Yes, Unstable Deadbeat, the Patreon and YouTube member stream is today. It's going to be right after this stream. I'll probably take about a 10-15 minute break to use the bathroom, stretch, get some water. But then we will do the Patreon and member only stream. We're going to watch, that's actually a good question. I'll probably have people in chat vote if we want to do another public domain movie, or if we want to check in on Call for an Uprising. because we haven't checked in on him in a while, and we've been doing a lot of public domain movies, which I love to do, but I understand that my interests aren't necessarily everyone's interests, so we'll do a poll in the Patreon and YouTube member stream to decide what we do.
She was interviewing, and it was causing some trauma because it was something that my daughter's doctor didn't want her to be interviewed, to cause more of a grievance for her. And then also they weren't interviewing my son appropriately for his cognitive development. Sometimes he in his mind, sometimes he has been tested at 2 or 3 years old and he's 7, and sometimes he's an active 7-year-old in his.
Okay, that doesn't make any sense. You can't have cognitive tests where they wildly differ that much unless you coached him to do badly on one of the tests or some of the tests. That doesn't make sense. If the child is actively trying, in all instances, the results should be around the same area. There's going to be some slight variation, but, like, it shouldn't be that wildly different. That comes off to me like you were coaching the child to intentionally get answers wrong or something.
Cognitive, he's intellectual disability, mental disability, both. So at that point, I declined. I said, listen, my daughter's doctor doesn't want her interviewed. My son's, can't discuss any of his medical conditions with.
The book that gave us Baron Munchausen, Surprising Adventures of Baron Munchausen. Yeah, I've not read this. I have the movie, too, but I've not seen it yet.
With him, and he is wrong. So why don't,
Yeah, 2 and 7 is a huge difference. Like, 2-year-olds are, like, just starting to maybe by later 2s, like, say stuff and, like, start to talk and like, maybe start to form basic sentences and stuff. 7 is, like, a kid that can talk and has, like, a whole personality and shit.
I'm declining interviews. And so they wanted to.
7-year-olds even have object permanence. How
offer
nice.
Me a,
Though Republicans never develop that skill.
They told me that they have.
Wow, that's where I'm at. Hacky jokes. That's the hacky joke state we're at, Hannah. Did you think you'd be here 10 years ago? Is this what you thought you'd be doing with your life? Dressed as a dinosaur, watching an abusive parent lie to people on stream?
Had a service of like a medical navigator. They thought that they could help me out by, so-called medical navigator, somebody to help coordinate the appointments and make appointments. And so they told me to come down to what was called a family meeting. I ended up going down to the family meeting with 3 of his providers or 3 of his treatment team. And then there was probably about.
You chuckled. It's fine. It's just hack material. It's like being like, you know who's corrupt? Congress? Do you know who lies? Politicians. Like, it's just old jokes. Like, they're so old that, like, ancient Greeks would be like, that's a little played out.
10 or 11 people from the department and some third parties there. And at that point, I had asked them, well, let me roll back to the night before. The night before I went down to the family meeting, I received a call at almost 10 o'clock from somebody who.
Phoenix says, I'm going to yell at you until you love yourself. That works, right? I'm not allowed to love myself. If I loved myself, I'd be too powerful. Hannah with confidence and self-love couldn't be stopped. That's why the universe said no.
Who is an unknown source, like an insider from this place, who told me that they don't have that service, that it's not a service that they offer, and not.
They're classics for a reason, and the reason is people are lazy hacks.
To sign the paperwork.
It's me, I'm a people.
Because if I signed the paperwork, I was agreeing to their allegations. I was making a passive confession and agreeing to whatever they were saying. And I thought that was kind of, odd because, keep in mind, I've never heard of anything like this before in my life up until 40 days ago. So
Fenikagami says there's another issue here too that so many people need to internalize. Loving your child doesn't make you a good parent. Good parents love their kids, but not every parent who loves their kids is a good parent. So many people think a valid defense of a parenting style is to say, well, they love their kid. Yeah.
So I put that in the back of my head and I thought, okay, let me go into this family meeting. I went into the family meeting and asked them to put that in writing, and they couldn't. And then they threatened me that they were going to, not a threat, but they said, well, if you don't sign this.
The woman on the right is the other case. Wait, the case where she murdered a guy? Wait, is that the guy? That's not the guy. No, the guy she murdered was older, right? Hold on. This wasn't the guy she shot, right? Hold on. Was this the guy she shot? Is this the guy she murdered? No, damn it. That would have been a good interview. Ominously knowing the person next to her is... Yeah, she murdered her, like, fake lawyer because it was one of those QAnon-type people that's involved with the lady on the left that we've been talking about most of this stream. And the other lady got the idea that, oh, why is this ineffective? Oh, she didn't come to the conclusion I'm being scammed. She decided, they must be part of the deep state trying to trick me so my kids won't come back to me. So they did the pew-pew on the fake lawyer. Which is, by the way, you're planning on scamming insane conspiracy theorists. Consider the risks. They're crazy. They might murder you.
End up taking you to court. And I said, well, what does that look like? What does court look like to you? And they couldn't give me an outline. And I had requested, show me the difference. I can sign up a blank check for services you're not even telling me what they are, or I can go to court. So I declined to sign and told them I needed a little bit of time to talk to some professionals about it, and left that meeting. At that point, within a short period of time, I got an email from the department stating that I had to go to the court to decline the services. And I thought, okay, well, I'm going to go to the courthouse. And then I asked a couple of friends that were attorneys, and I said, have you ever heard of anything like this? This seems really odd. And they said, no, what's the case number? So I started asking around for a case number, couldn't get that. I didn't know the nature of the proceeding, couldn't understand what I was going for. The only thing I really could get from any of the regulatory agencies or any of the deputy.
So yeah, if this is the lady on the right that did the murder, we're going to cover her on a different tinfoil spotlight sometime. But cameo from future murderer.
Directors or anybody within the state was that from the department stating that I was going to decline I needed to officially decline the services in this courtroom. So one of my attorney friends said, well, why don't you just go down and see what it's about? So that was on May 17th, my D-Day there, and I went down to the court, and I took a friend with me. We went down there.
Did she call her court appearance her D-Day? Okay. I have to pee real quick while I'm gone. Cher will tell you about... Chandu the Magician! Not Lugosi's best work. Not Lugosi's best work. It's a living. Be right back. Is the murder lady still behind bars? I believe so. I believe so. Ugh. Chandu is one of Lugosi's protagonist roles. Yeah, that was rare for him. I think he plays a villain better, but yeah. Didn't get to play the hero a lot. That was usually Karloff's job. Alright. Enough about my special interest. Alternative was showing you the Magilla Gorilla show. Is that better? You have more to say about Magilla Gorilla? No. Sitting on my tail. Heck. Good thing I don't have a tail. It would be very annoying.
And there was
Sorry, I just wedged my heel under one of the legs of the rolly chair thing. That hurt my skin because I'm not wearing socks right now. Sorry. Rayline with 40 bits says, so what I'm hearing is that the court wanted to give her someone to help her manage the court process with a disabled child, but she refused, meaning she's completely refusing to cooperate. She thinks it's some kind of conspiracy, but in actuality, the court is removing a child from a potentially abusive parent who's interfering in the investigation. Yes.
room number in the email, and the day before they did email me a case number that nobody could.
Alt fact in regard to Magilla Gorilla said that's a cartoon you can really appreciate. An ape.
Find in the.
You think Magilla Gorilla and Grape Ape got along?
System. And
or was it like a Daffy Duck, Donald Duck thing where they're both divas?
I'm assuming that might be for privacy because it's a juvenile case. None of my attorney friends could find that. I went into the court. Well, outside of the courtroom, it wasn't listed on the docket, so I wasn't even sure if I was in the right place. I went into the courtroom and nobody was there, and it was, an official courtroom. And at that point, about 8 people from the department came in. And I recognized the caseworker, the one who had been interviewing my children and who was at the family meeting. And then there was...
They kiss a lot. No Hanna-Barbera / fiction in my chat. That's for the Discord.
I guess her supervisor, an attorney for the department, and then a guardian ad litem. And then there was, come to find out, a court-appointed attorney for me. And they asked me to sign a paper saying that I understood the petition and all its consequences. And I said, I haven't even seen a petition. I declined to sign that. And then they asked me to fill out a paper that's...
I'm not your real mommy. I'm everyone's mommy.
Said that was a financial affidavit of sorts, or financial paper to see if I qualified for court-appointed counsel. And at that point, I filled it out. I was over the income. So I just sat there with my friend and they said, well, you're not, going to qualify. You're over. And then the hearing starts up. And then the magistrate decides that I do qualify. Unilateral.
It's true. You're all sub-babies. The truth has been hidden from you. You're all sub-babies of previous viewers. And one day your sub-babies will grow to be sentient and sapient and filled with false memories of a life they never really experienced. I don't know.
Laterally, she decides, yep, okay, you're going to qualify. And they give me this court-appointed attorney who...
The Circle of Life. It's like Vivarium, but not as good.
We spend then I get to see the petition. So now we're in the hearing and I finally...
If we had false memories, why such shitty ones? Humans won't accept only good memories. Something, the Matrix.
See a petition of these allegations. So I get into the hearing. The court-appointed attorney asked me to come out to a side room for about 10 minutes. And this petition was several multi-pages, maybe 10 to 15 pages long. A lot of inaccuracies, a lot of untruths, a lot of medical information.
Which, you notice how she just vaguely says misinformation, but she doesn't say what's misinformation? Because usually if I was trying to say that someone had lied or was misinforming, you'd show examples, or at least give specific examples. You know what I mean?
And at that point, she wants me to sign the petition, and I declined to sign the petition again. So we go back into the hearing, and the magistrate asks me why I haven't signed it. She was upset with me, and I said I haven't even really read it. I mean, I spent 10 minutes skimming through something that was full of untruths. I'm not going to sign it. So she tells
Oh, so you refused to read it. In the other interview, you said you hadn't read it, like they hadn't provided it to you. Here you're explaining they gave it to you. You just got a little bit into it and were like, no, I refuse to read further. So it's not that you, like, couldn't read it. You refused to read it. Gotcha.
tells me that I have to sign it. So I'm coerced and ordered into signing this in the hearing. And I get into signing this, and then the hearing starts. And then the department starts reading off these allegations of, medical neglect. I've given my 22-year-old I have two grown sons that are 26 and 22. One was graduating from Washington and Lee and just got accepted to Duke, and he's in Virginia, and now he's in North Carolina. And we already had plane tickets for his graduation that we ended up having to miss. And one of the allegations was they were just, that I had given him chemotherapy, that I had shaved my daughter's head. They were just these crazy allegations. And I said, I object to all of this, and I reserve.
That's fine. You can object to those in court. And I don't mean like I object. I mean, if in court you can prove that that evidence isn't true, or if they failed to meet, rather, their burden of proof, great. When you're signing it, you're just saying you received it. It doesn't mean you're agreeing that those things necessarily happened. In trial, when you actually have your hearings on this, you can have your lawyer argue these things, but you still need to sign the thing to say that you got it, that you read it, or at least that you were offered the chance to read it.
Reserve my right to a jury trial. And
her kids testified against her, didn't they? I know the daughter turned her in for the kidnap plot that she was convicted of. Again, she was convicted of second-degree conspiracy to kidnap, I believe. She was going to kidnap her kid from the foster home he was with. So the daughter turned her in. I don't know if she testified on the stand.
At this point,
stuff older kids told them when interviewed. Could be.
Was kind of aware. I found out that it was a temporary custody hearing. It wasn't something to go down and decline services. So I go down into the court. I'm sitting in the courtroom. My attorney, court-appointed attorney, objects to them trying to take custody of my son, and because she hasn't even read really the petition, she just got it, and then the magistrate says denied. And they came to my house immediately after the court hearing and took him out of the house. He was sitting there playing Jenga with his sister. So I haven't got a court. So at this point, so they took him. So then I read the petition and realized it was full of false allegations. And
you said you already thought that at the courthouse when they handed it to you initially, and you skimmed it.
They left a home packet on my table that said possible misrepresentation of illness. And nobody has spoken to him or talked to him since.
Okay, the state is talking to him. His foster parents are talking to him. You and your family aren't allowed to because they're afraid that, you might find the kid or attempt to kidnap him, which you do end up attempting to do anyway, which is why you end up getting convicted of second-degree attempted kidnapping. Like, you're acting as though you don't understand why his location is being hidden from you, while later you will go on to plot to kidnap him, allegedly maybe with weapons involved. There were some implications that weapons would be involved in that kidnapping.
What does it even matter, even if you did lie about some illness that he...
The murderer, everyone! The murderer doesn't understand why Munchausen by proxy is bad.
What does it even matter, even if you did lie about some illness that he has?
Again! Murderer! That's her boyfriend that got arrested with her? That makes sense. Yeah, she's another QAnon mom that ended up shooting a guy over this stuff. She's in prison. Womp womp. The aristocrats. Did we do it?
I don't know what that means.
I've never heard of that before, to be honest.
I think they're trying to say that I have Munch proxy by syndrome, and they're trying.
What did she say?
I think they're trying to say that I have Munch proxy by syndrome.
Munch proxy by syndrome. I can't say I've heard of that one. Munchausen by proxy syndrome is a thing. Green guy with the $1 tip says, Hannah, so many people you cover need to get a hobby other than having children and obsessing about them. They should play The Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion Remastered and stay away from the world. Agreed. Do you know how many hours I've put into Oblivion in the past week? It's unhealthy. It's unhealthy. By the way, I am the hero of Kvatch, if anyone's curious, and the Grand Champion. So, if you want to follow me around and annoy me, I understand.
And they're trying to
By Azura, the Grand Champion.
say that I'm making up his illnesses, that he's not really sick. The best I could speculate at that point was that if I was creating or fabricating or misrepresenting his illnesses, then the school would be exonerating from supplying any needs that they were supposed to supply to give him a right to a federal education, free and public education, his federal right to an education.
All right, let's circle back for a second. So why did CPS come to your door again?
They said possible misrepresentation of illness.
Okay.
So does that mean the school probably called them? How were they brought in?
School could have, a friend could have if they suspected, a family member could have, some doctor you took him to could have, any number of people could have picked up on this.
I don't know who called them.
So they just showed up and said that. I mean, no alert.
They showed up and they said they received a call that I was possibly misrepresenting my son's illness.
So what are the homeschooling laws in your state? Are there any laws that you feel like could have possibly been broken by you?
Interviewing a bank robber. Do you think any law, you think maybe you broke some laws? Any that you can think about? Bank robber. No, not that I can think of. I don't know. They just kidnapped me. I had just gotten this fresh cartoon sack of cash with a $sign on it. And all the people around me were a little scared, but who knows? Who knows why? Are you saying that was me? Who knows? We don't know what's going on here. I was confused. All of a sudden, I'm kidnapped by the police and they put me in torture cuffs. What's going on in this country where an innocent person making an unexpected and unauthorized withdrawal from the bank can be kidnapped from their own bank?
I had hired an educational advocate because I was not, I couldn't come up with a curriculum for a child with his condition and with a developmental disability who was not an average first grader. So she knew all the homeschooling laws. She was an advocacy center who knew what all to do. I had filed the right paperwork. Everything seemed to be in order. I don't think there was any laws that were broken at all with his homeschooling.
Good thing you're not the one that gets to determine that, and I don't think it was the homeschooling. It was, again, the alleged Munchausen by proxy.
Well, I can think of a lot of laws that were broken on their end because you...
I can think of one broken on your end, the one where you shot the guy and killed him. That's a law. That's a law you broke. Don't do murder. Don't do murder.
You weren't even served papers and you didn't even know what kind of hearing you were going to whenever it was a temporary custody hearing. That is absolutely ridiculous.
It's not, because they were afraid that if they saw that they were going to a custody hearing that they would abscond with the child, which clearly was a founded concern, considering, again, she was later convicted of attempting to kidnap the child from foster care.
Oh my God.
My attorney.
You are not the victim. You are the one making the victim. You are the abuser. The kid needs to be protected from you.
My attorney, I then ended up, I asked the court-appointed attorney to fire him.
Yeah, Dillis Filler, the woman on the right was also into this stuff. and concerned because her kid, I think, was also taken by CPS, and she ended up shooting a guy over it. One of her pseudo-legal fake lawyers. It wasn't helping her the way that she thought, because of course he wasn't. He's not a real lawyer. But instead of recognizing she was just getting scammed by him, she decided, oh, he must be in on this deep state plot to kidnap my children. So she went over and shot him, and he died. She's in prison for a long, long time now. As I said, if you're going to be a con artist, conning crazy people is a risk.
File an emergency motion for his return. She told me she was uncomfortable.
I don't remember off the top of my head why her kid was taken away.
Filing anything.
I do plan on doing another tinfoil spotlight at some point on her case and what happened to her, and I'll have more information then, because I haven't actually gone through and, investigated any of her stuff in specific yet. I was focusing on the other woman today.
Anything against the magistrate. So I guess for whatever reason, now I kind of figured out that she didn't really want to be involved in filing that. I did end up calling her regulating agency and filing a complaint, and that prompted her to file a motion to have the magistrate's order reviewed. Moving forward, that motion said that they would like to have the child returned in order, around everybody's schedule. Set up an evidentiary hearing around everybody's schedule. It was not an emergency situation. So I kept prompting her and asking her, and I finally asked her to withdraw. And I asked her to withdraw as my attorney, and I took on another attorney, Jay Fisher, and he filed a writ of habeas corpus against the department that was served on them last week to return or produce my son wherever he is, because his whereabouts are unknown. There has been no sibling visits, no sibling communication, no family communication.
Yes, because they don't want through intermediaries for information to get to you because you are the abuser.
I went down to the courthouse to take a look at his case file, which has been misplaced. So in the writ of habeas corpus, he laid out the case law for the fact that I was not served any paperwork.
Yes.
The petition was only created 2 days prior to the hearing. They
Right.
had been on the case since January.
Who was this man? Which man? The one that the lady shot, or the guy on the right? Because the guy on the right over here is the boyfriend of the woman that he's sitting next to. You're talking about the other man. Oh God, I'm blanking.
January. And
what was the beginning of this question?
Created an emergency, the hearing. They
Right.
had been on the case since January and created an emergency, situation that they falsified a petition to create an emergent situation to take him. I'm trying to think of what else.
I mean, this is
Oh, who was killed? Yeah, the fake lawyer she had. He wasn't a real lawyer. He was like a part of an organization that's full of parents like this who had their kids taken away, generally for good reason. But they don't want to accept that because that would mean they're bad people or bad parents at minimum, so they can't accept that. They basically got together and created their own fake law organization to try and help fight for parental rights. But anyway, it was all sovereign citizen bullshit. This lady got wind, like, what was part of it, was utilizing their services, wasn't seeing results. Because of that, she decided not that they were scamming her, which was true, but she believed they were working with the deep state to keep her children from her, so she killed the guy who was a part of it.
this is a kidnapping. I don't.
Not a kidnapping.
This is the classical definition of a kidnap.
No, it's not. There's no demand for money. This isn't some personal thing. This is them taking your child out of a dangerous situation. You are a danger to your child.
Absolutely.
This is unbelievable.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's where we're at. His case file is missing, seems to be really, really.
I am so warm in this thing. Can you see how red my face is getting? That's not even just blush. I didn't put blush back here. This is just my face. Jesus.
important.
I have rosacea, for those that don't know, so I have very red cheeks.
I haven't been able to locate that. I did actually fill out paperwork to request if they were able to locate it, his file, to please contact me. I've
She represented herself in her murder trial. Oh, that's not advised.
requested an expedited copy of the transcript of that particular hearing, which was, come to find out, a secret hearing that was never on the docket.
Right. Wow.
So that was part of it too. He had just started receiving disability. His dad is deceased.
I
And
was
so
just going to ask. Yeah.
then the money starts coming in with survivors benefits and Social Security and services. And they're kind of framing the work to keep him as I'm creating this, fabricating illness that, he has 800 pages of medical records for. And it's really interesting to me. I think I talked to you, Angie, yesterday via text, and yesterday was a hard day. I did a lot of crying. So in the process of grieving a child that you don't know the whereabouts of, if you're looking at the general public's,
I would put the hood down, but I'm pretty sure my hair's fucked from the hood, so.
Consensus of this happening, there's not a large support group, because if you go out, 40 days ago, if somebody would have came up to me and said CPS took my child for no reason, at me as a mom, I would have thought, okay, there's got to be more to the story. Got to be, that's just what the general public thinks. And I think that they kind of bank on that for lack of support, until people start digging into the evidence saying, well, wait, where's the, including his doctor, who's been messaging me from the hospital saying, where is he? Have you heard from him? Where is he? So it's been a real eye opener for me. Just the whole thing. It's kind of a reality shift, like a paradigm shift of sorts.
Yeah, if you get a chance to check out our channel, the last interview we did with Rachel Bruno, a lot of illegal things happened in her case, of course, as well. And she went back and she sued the hospital, she sued the county, she sued this, she sued a lot of people. And I'm just encouraging anybody at all, we've got to take as many lawsuits to them. And
H-Bear, thanks for 52 months of subscription, says I wanted to make a topical joke about the video we're watching, but this lady is giving me nothing to work with.
And take them down that way. You file civil lawsuits, but you can do that like the individual caseworker that came in. I would file a civil lawsuit against her. I would just have...
Yeah, that's not a good idea. I don't think that would go well.
15 or 20 lawsuits going at once.
Yeah. So what is your daily schedule like right now, trying to find where your son is? I mean, this is incredible to me.
Well, during the day, the weekends are really tough. I'm having a real hard time going to the stores because there's kids, and I hear a child and I look over and think, is that him? Or I see.
And I just think, boy, I sure wish I could make that kid have seizures so I could get attention.
Parents, and I think, do they have them? So that's a little bit difficult for me since this situation has started. I have decided to take my anger and my sadness about this and really try to put it towards a productive day, at least during the Monday through Friday day, and as many places that are open and as many things that I can do to get out and try to, go through the paperwork, start to put together the complaints, the perjury, the omission, the things that were omitted from, with the allegations, and working with my attorney with that. One thing that seems to help is helping other parents going through it, because it seems to be a very small platform of people that, 99.9% of the parents that I talk to have signed the papers. So I think the gentleman who called me the night before is a real godsend and a saving grace, because I don't think I would have been able to file a writ of habeas corpus had I consented to a contract.
Oh, right.
There's the sovereign citizen stuff again.
So let's talk about that a little bit more. So they told you there was this program. How did they explain the program to you verbally that made you think, oh, maybe I'll do this? Maybe that's a good thing.
Well, it was presented to me as being something very helpful with my son's condition and all the therapists that he sees that come into the home to help him reverse any of the damages that he had from the seizures. And with his appointments with the specialist, they were going to help me navigate.
Yeah, the fact that they were making house calls makes me think that these are not, like, and I could be wrong. I'm sure there are actual therapists that might go to people's homes, especially in situations where people can't leave their home. But I am sort of suspecting that these therapists might not have actually been therapists,
And with his appointments
not licensed therapists.
with the specialist, they were going to help me navigate that because it was going to be overwhelming for me. So they had they were going to give me a medical navigator and an appointment maker.
Wow.
That's how that was presented.
So I'm a little confused still. This is like a little. So he's having seizures, and they're confirmed seizures, right? And yet you're making.
Yeah. Confirmed in what way? Who confirmed them? Do you have documentation of that? They continue? It's weird that they haven't continued since he's not in your custody. Wonder what medications can induce seizures in children.
Making this up? I mean, I don't understand.
So I could go on to the petition and try to defend that, but I'll just say that he has seizures. Generally, in a seizure disorder, about 50 to 70% of the time, you don't really know the cause. Mm-hmm. So his seizures were not controlled well by medication. He also has some other issues. He has muscle weakness, ataxia. They're working him up for a connective tissue disorder.
I know I'm repeating this a lot, but you kind of have to when someone is just lying constantly. The child is fine. Out of her custody, they have had zero medical issues.
I saw a distinct change in him with the seizures at Nicholas Children's in Miami before we transferred over here, when he had two big seizures back to back, and he came home and hit his sensory portion of his brain, the memory portion of his brain, and the sequencing portion of his brain. So my goal was to come out to Colorado.
H. Baird says, as a curious person, I do wonder what medications could cause seizures, but I also don't want to look it up and get put on a list. Understandable.
When they transferred him, get him in with the specialist that might be able to test him to find out what the cause of the seizures were, and then to, at the same time, simultaneously, being able to get him into the occupational, the physical, the behavioral therapy to try to reverse some of the damage that had been done. And that's what I was in the process of doing when they took him.
Yeah, my issue is that he's having seizures, and the doctors are validating that he's having seizures, and yet CPS is saying that you're making this stuff up. Right. That I guess that's my.
Well, they'll say anything, from what I understand. The other
hypocrite, lying hypocrite.
part of that is the only thing I really took out of the courtroom that was instructed was because I still don't have a copy of the court order that took him because the case file's missing. So I can't seem to get a copy of that court order that removed him. So that's been 40 days. So, or any of the notes or anything that's in this file. So I was able to obtain a record of case action, which is a small paper. It shows, things anybody.
Okay.
Attorneys.
I think we've heard enough from Cynthia. I did kind of want to take a look at some of the people who believe her and how they reacted when she was found guilty of the kidnapping stuff, so let's take a look.
Foster care, abuse of Cynthia Absug.
Was this people who... trying to remember if this was people who agreed with her or didn't. Look. I guess we'll find out.
The mother that's going on trial for medical abuse of a child and plotting to kidnap her child from foster care with these QAnon conspiracy theorists.
Okay. This person that believes her. That's funny. Doon, 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 doon.
Hey everybody, it's me, Megan Fox. I am at the Rochester airport right now. I am headed to Denver, to Colorado. I know it's super early and a bunch of you are not going to get on here right now, and that's fine. Because this is just for when you do wake up and you see that I was on, I had a video, so you know what's going on. Some of you might remember the case of Cynthia Absug. I'm going to be covering her criminal trial. Why does my hair look so weird? This is a bad angle. My goodness. It's 5:47 in the morning. Cynthia Absug, terrible lighting. God, could it be any worse?
You picked this.
Cynthia Absug is a mom in Colorado who had a problem with CPS that I reported several years ago. Hold on, let me share it with you. I can't believe there are 11 of you here. How is this possible? And let's see. All right.
Can't believe there are 195 of you here. How is this possible? The internet.
So, when was this? August 12th of 2019. Yeah, I started following this story with Cindy. She emailed me and I emailed her back, and we started working together on what CPS was doing to her. Please ignore the airport noise. I have put the links. Oh my God, this guy's never going to shut up.
You're in an airport. No one made you stream in the airport.
The airport is the worst. All right. I'm just waiting for him to shut up. Okay. Cynthia Absug had her kid, who was 7 years old at the time, taken from her by CPS in Douglas County, Colorado in 2019. And they claimed that she was exaggerating his medical condition. Oh my God. I swear to God, none of this was happening until I decided to stream. I'm sure that the volume is, sound is bad. Anyway, I dropped the links for you guys in the description of this live stream. This is going to be a short one because I literally have to get on a plane in 15 minutes. Back in 2019, Cindy was accused of exaggerating her medical condition for her child, who has an extensive medical record of epilepsy and other problems.
Again, he has not had any of these issues out of her custody, whether she was inducing actual issues or if she was just lying about these issues to doctors. It's clear that these issues are not real. They're not there, sans influence of the mother. So this child did not have these issues.
I wrote about this on PJ Media, an extensive article about, oh wait, this is the, hold on, that's the second one. Where's the first one? Hold on, I gotta get the first one. Sorry, June 8th, 2019. There it is. All right, I have extensive evidence.
This lady has 50,000 subscribers, by the way.
On this article.
I think she got a bunch of subscribers when she started covering, like, some of her most popular stuff is, like, what was that trial? Yeah, Amber Heard. And she's, like, a MAGA person. Get it. Oh, wow, she has a reacting to SJW meltdown compilation. Oh, boy.
This is the entire story, and I dropped the link for you guys in the description. And I want you to read it because I'm going to be reporting on this trial live all week. So you're going to see me a lot this week. Probably every day I'll be doing live streams after the court is over.
You've missed a hell of an episode so far, Nemesaur.
So anyway, CPS...
There's been intrigue, lies, allegations of seizures, a cameo from a murderer. Been a lot.
Her kid doesn't give her due process, says that of all the things she's accused of, the only accusation is that she's making up or exaggerating his medical condition, which is so bizarre because
that's not bizarre.
I've got all the doctors.
I mean, it's bizarre that Munchausen by proxy is a thing, but like it's not bizarre that she was like considered abusing her child for that.
Records that say he had a serious condition. So read that link. I don't have time to read it to you. And then there's another one underneath of it in the description that is the update from that happened in August. Now, since then, I did not report on this after what happened. I just want you to know that I was in contact with Cindy up until September when she disappeared. What the state says happened did not happen. The state
Except it did. So, sucks to be you.
says that she fled arrest because she was plotting a kidnapping plot to kidnap her son from foster care. That did not happen.
It did. She was actually convicted of it because her own daughter turned her in. Her own daughter reported the plan.
I'll tell you what did happen, because I was there. And I even involved the FBI. And I haven't talked to anybody about this. I never wrote about it because it was so crazy. And I was waiting to see
This
what
is from a 1987 mall. This is from an airport.
happened with this trial. But Cindy was groomed and preyed upon by con men on the internet, who are Field McConnell and Timothy Holmseth and their crew.
She didn't get involved with those people until after she had already gotten involved in all this stuff.
Are a bunch of, what's the word, sovereign citizens.
Yes,
However,
and she got involved with them and adopted many of their beliefs, and it served her ill.
told her they represented themselves to her as federal agents.
Yeah, and they suck. They also suck. That doesn't mean that what she did wasn't also wrong and illegal.
Told her they were working with the Pentagon and that they were going to have the military get her son from what they said were child traffickers.
Yeah, again, we're gonna cover this on another episode, this organization that, like, she got involved with, and the other woman who did the murder of one of the people in the organization, but that's a lot to get into on top of everything else today.
Now, her son did report some abuse in foster care, and so she was desperate.
Pretty sure she claimed he reported that. I think the specific wording was, "Mommy, my sphincter hurts," which I'm not going to make light of allegations of child sexual abuse. I will point out that that phrasing does not sound like a 7-year-old said it. I do not think a 7-year-old is reporting sexual abuse by saying, "Mommy, my sphincter hurts." Does a 7-year-old know what a sphincter is? They may have heard the word, but I don't think they specifically know the part of your body that is a sphincter, and I don't think they would use that term. So I think the mom was trying to get out there into QAnon communities this idea that her child was being sexually abused in order to garner more sympathy for herself. Because again, she has Munchausen by proxy. So that's kind of the whole deal.
For anyone who would help her. And at the time, I was telling her to be very careful. And then she disappeared. So I knew that she had gone with them. But I didn't know where she went. So they trafficked her across the country.
You mean they arrested her? Oh no, you're talking about the QAnon people.
Went. So they trafficked her across the country into all these different, what they called safe houses. And God knows what happened there. And she was arrested after they were talking online about raiding the foster care and raiding and getting him back. But they were presenting themselves as federal agents, as law enforcement. They even showed her documents from the White House that had Donald Trump's signature on them. Yeah, it's a crazy story, you guys. She's not the only mom who fell for it. I mean, look.
Yeah, the other mom shot a guy in the face. You still did crimes.
Look, Marco, you said if she believed...
Who is this? Her name is Megan Fox. She's a crackpot.
That story, maybe...
She's a crackpot, and I believe a lawyer.
She should not be in charge of children. You know, a lot of people get conned into believing a lot of things, and that doesn't make them bad people. I will tell you...
No, but their actions make them bad people. Their actions, at minimum, mean they did bad action. I would argue that her making her kid sick, or lying about her kid being sick, makes her a bad person. But yeah, if you get convinced of crazy things and you do bad things because of it, that's still on you. Like, it's understandable to some extent, but you aren't not culpable for your actions because you were tricked.
That what she believed, others have believed as well. They were good at what they did. They literally even sent her someone they said was protection, a federal agent. It was crazy. Okay. Absolutely crazy. And that's one of the things that got her arrested, because her daughter thought that there was a sniper in the house. I don't know. Crazy. It's a crazy story. The point is, she was eventually arrested on conspiracy to kidnap her son. She was the only person arrested in this conspiracy.
She was convicted, by the way.
The only person. How do you have a conspiracy to kidnap that doesn't involve anyone but one person? Yet the media reported it. They called her QAnon mom.
Is that the witness protection she was talking about? Yes.
Because some of these people that were preying on her were Q believers, and
she literally believed a bunch of the stuff that they were saying. She believes that children are being trafficked by the courts. She believes that they're being abused intentionally and being trafficked into situations where they're intentionally being abused. That is QAnon stuff. Even if she didn't identify specifically with QAnon, regardless, she believed the things they believed because she was around people who believed them and fed her those lies.
didn't even know what Q was. And I know this for a fact because I had to explain it to her. She asked me what it was, and I had to explain it. She still, to this day, doesn't know what it is. And so when the media...
yeah, I'm gonna bet you... I don't think that's true. Zero chance she doesn't know what QAnon is. I just think she's lying. Again, we know she's a liar, so I just don't believe her.
Calls her QAnon mom. It's all bullshit, okay? Because she wasn't political at all. She didn't know anything about politics. She's not...
I'm gonna press X to doubt on that one.
Not a Trump person. She's not a Biden person. She's just not political.
I don't know if you know this, but even if you think you're not political, you almost certainly are. You have beliefs. Those beliefs reflect situations in the world. Those situations are parts of material conditions caused by political action or lack thereof. You are political. You might not think about it, but you are. We are all inherently political entities.
And let me tell you something. If you can criticize her for falling for a con, but
okay, if you fall for a con and then you commit crimes because you fell for a con, you still committed those crimes.
Tell you this: when the state has taken your child with no due process and no, the
due process is the court stuff she was going through. They took the kid away because they considered her an imminent danger to the child, which turned out to be true based on the fact that the kid is fine outside of her custody.
Circumstances, which you will read in the articles that I linked, the circumstances are so bizarre and so terrifying. When you've gone through that trauma, you are more willing and open to falling for someone selling you hope in that case.
Okay, I don't disagree with that, but also she was a bad person before that. She was doing things to her child allegedly to make him sick, or at least lying and saying he was sick when he wasn't. That's not right. That's indicative of like mental illness and abuse.
And that's what these people did. Now let me also point this out. One of the people involved in this scam, his name was Christopher Hallett. And after Cindy disappeared, I called the FBI and I had them come and sit at my dining room table. And I showed them my files on all these people that I believed were scam artists and were dangerous to her and other people. And I said to the FBI, and I handed them Christopher Hallett's name, I said, these people they have taken this woman across the country, I don't know where, and I think that they're dangerous, and I think that they're scamming her, they're posing as federal agents, and this person, Christopher Hallett, and these other people involved, Field McConnell, whatever, they're either going to end up getting someone killed or someone's going to kill them because of the extreme stress that they've done to people. The FBI took the information from me and they said, okay, we'll look into it. I never heard from them again. Shortly after that conversation, Christopher Hallett was shot dead by Neely Blanchard. Neely Blanchard is another one of these moms that the media...
That's the lady who was in the other interview we watched.
Called QAnon mom. I'm sure she didn't know who Q was either.
But the idea that people don't know what QAnon is funny too. Like, that was like a national, like, these were national news stories. Like, the idea that anyone isn't at least vaguely familiar, like, oh, the conspiracy thing. Come on now.
She was just another mom preyed on by these scam artists.
For those that don't know, by the way, it's kind of a Fight Club thing where the first rule of QAnon is don't talk about QAnon. So often people who are into QAnon will lie and say they don't know what that is. That is a common trope within that conspiracy, is they are aware how QAnon is perceived by people, so they lie and say they have no idea what it is. I'm not saying everyone who says they don't know what it is lying. I'm just saying a lot of people who are into it and believe it expressly have been told within their community, do not tell people this is QAnon stuff. Do not tell them you believe in QAnon or know what QAnon is. Like, that's kind of their modus operandi at this point.
And she was talked into running with her children, and then she was charged with kidnapping. And after she found out that their false affidavits didn't work in court, because that's what they do, they sell these bogus false affidavits.
Yep.
After she figured that out, and she knew she was going to lose her kids forever, she figured she had nothing left to lose, and she shot Christopher Hallett dead. It's exactly what I told the FBI I thought would happen at some point. So now we have two moms, Neely Blanchard and Cynthia Absug, both preyed on by this group of people. Both of them facing jail. Neely for sure is going to jail because she committed murder. Cynthia is facing a jail sentence for a thing that she never did, that she never planned. She believed that the people who were surrounding her were federal law enforcement. That's not a crime. What was done to her is a crime. And so I want you guys to catch up on this case. I want you to read the background of it, because you won't read that anywhere else. If you read about her in the Daily Beast or any other places, it's all a bunch of garbage and lies. So anyway, I'm headed to Colorado. What time is it? 5:57. I think we're boarding in about 3 minutes, but I'm going to be sitting in the courtroom every day. The judge has denied cameras in the courtroom, so unfortunately it won't be live streamed, but I am going to be in the courtroom every day, and I'm going to bring you what the state has. And I don't believe the state has much of anything.
Again, she was convicted.
Because I don't think this happened. It didn't happen. Cindy was not planning on kidnapping her son. She was hoping and believing that federal agents and the military was going to rescue her son from a corrupt institution. And yes, I will be in Denver or close to it. At least I'm flying in Denver. I don't know where I'm going. No, I think I'll be staying away from the edibles. I'll be working. So, it's legal in New York too. So it's like not a cool thing anymore. Like, it's just everywhere. So yeah, I don't like edibles. I prefer the flower personally. All right. So I got to go because I got to get on a flight.
Maybe you're smoking a little too much and that's why you believe Absug. All right. So that's the story of Cynthia Absug. Hopefully we don't hear from her again. I really hope that this is the end of her story. I hope her son continues to do well in his foster care situation or whatever situation he's in now. The last I heard was him being, put in foster care where he was doing much better, wasn't suffering any medical issues. So hopefully he's still doing good. And hopefully this lady stays off the conspiracies and maybe seeks some therapy because, Munchausen's isn't a joke, Like, terrible what she did, but I hope she's able to seek some therapy and figure out why she did it, Anyway, so we will be doing the Patreon and YouTube member stream. After this, I'm going to take about 10, 15 minutes, 20 at the most to go use the bathroom, get a drink, stretch my legs, and then we will do the patron stream. We're going to vote whether we do Call for an Uprising videos, who's a conspiracy theorist I used to cover all the time, who threatened my life. That's why we only cover him on patron streams sometimes. Or we'll decide if we're going to watch a movie. So, cool. Please cool off. Yeah, I'll be taking this off. I'll be taking this off for the patron stream. Love you too, Mr. Blast. Oh my god, Keffels is streaming? Jesus. I'll raid Granny. Alright, have a great night, everyone! I will see you soon if you're gonna be at the, patron or YouTube member stream. Other than that, I'll see you tomorrow. I am streaming tomorrow, and I have something special for y'all. We're gonna do a Meme Stock Monday. We have more Meme Stock stuff happening, so we're gonna do a Meme Stock Monday. I'll see you tomorrow for that. Get ready for some Marantz cringe. Night, everyone.